It is Monday, April 25th, 2022, 7:00 PM in the Merrill Sinay Community Room at Thompson Town Hall. We will begin, if there is no objection, with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, which stands
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Begin with roll call. Roll call.
Mike Krogel,
Jane Salcy,
Ray Williams,
Brian Santos.
John Rice.
Alvin Hill,
Charlene Langlois,
Randy Blackmer. And Joseph Purdy Brown. We will seat Mr. Santos for Mr. Popowski and Ms. Orlovac for Mr. Lenke.
he said he was going to join.
He may or may not be. Okay, so in that case, Mr. Santos will be seated for, he's an alternate.
lo and behold.
Lo and
Thank you.
behold.
Thank you.
Do you want?
Got 3 seats. That's a comfortable one. These are so.
Mr. Chairman, could you?
Yeah, sorry, I'm,
Sorry.
Mr. Santos will be seated for Mr. Lenke. And Ms. Orlovac will not be seated.
A little.
Item 3, public hearing, Planning and Zoning Commission application 22-07. Applicant Jessica Deary, property owner Sean Deary, 377 Brandy Hill Road, map 141, block 17, lot 49, zone LD Lake District, request for a seasonal country inn bed and breakfast. Before I open the public hearing, Ms. Dunn.
Mr. Deary, well, I should say Ms. Deary, the applicant's name is Tom Deary, representing her, hearing. The information in the first step letter sent to him, none of the information was filled, so he came in today to walk through it, and he asked to have the public hearing postponed to next month, and we are within our days, legal times to open up. By the time next month, we'll get it done. So we have 65 days. So that's what his request was. And I put the first step letter in the application, so you know the items I requested.
Mr. Wright.
Question for Cindy. In the event of what's going on, depending on what happens Wednesday night, now, if this commission is disbanded, now does that time frame continue? I'd be in favor of, because the application is incomplete.
Right.
The application is that, let's start all over again. Should we be back in business? If not, then
I have to be very honest. I was actually going to call the attorney after Wednesday to find out if anything that was pending before it comes to positive vote, if that is still, are we allowed to still work on it? We don't have the answer for that.
I think I just say, because the application, they didn't post the sign, they didn't do any of the stuff they should have done. It was just deny the application at this point, let them submit it again next month. Should we be in business?
Whether that would be, you accept next month, that would be another month.
Well, it wouldn't be if they posted the sign and did what was on the application. My comment, though.
Okay, any other thoughts from the commission?
I have no problem postponing it. So does that mean they just start from square one? Or do we need to schedule it assuming that will still be here.
I would schedule it, assuming we're still gonna be here, and then if not, then we go from there.
Yeah, if we can postpone the hearing for the application for 22-07. It stands, so they wouldn't have to start all over again.
If you open it in May, it's still within your 65.
There again, my comment is that if we're not, then it's an automatic approval. That's my point.
What, you were within your 65 days.
Yeah, I know, but if they disband planning and zoning, this is gonna be an automatic approval.
Along with one vote.
Pardon? Yeah.
Along with one vote.
Yeah, well, that's the way it is, though. So I say I'm not in favor of automatic approvals. Only had they filled out the application properly at the beginning, posted and thing, I wouldn't have a problem.
No,
Okay, because they did everything right, and it's on us that whatever's happened, whatever's gonna happen. But,
yeah.
you know, they didn't do it properly, they posted, it doesn't give the neighbors an opportunity to come and voice their opinion, because we haven't set a public hearing.
I have a question on that.
I can't hear anyone else.
They got notice to post that sign and all.
I put the letter I sent to them, which I called the
Yes.
first step letter,
Yep.
in the back of the application.
Yep.
And in my memo says, at the date of that memo that I printed it, which I believe was last Tuesday, I had not heard anything. Today, when I came in on my vacation, sat down for 45 minutes, and then I wrote the first step letter.
But he knew he had to put the sign up.
Yes.
And
I
notify,
agree with,
and notify the neighbors.
I agree with.
You have to
Mr. Rice.
notify the neighbors of the public hearing. So I'm in order, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny this application based on an incomplete application.
Motion has been made by Mr. Rice to deny application 22-07 based on an incomplete application.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Hill.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Motion made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Hill to deny application 22-07 due to an incomplete application. Any further discussion?
I guess I just have a question. So if we were still being a commission next month, I guess I'm kind of wondering, like, if we reject this, then it's May, June, then July, and if he's looking to do this right away, the summer months will be over. So he didn't know that there's a town issue going on, so I'm not so sure that I would think that I want that person to pay the price for a town issue when we normally would have just waited and done it next meeting. Do you know what I'm saying? So we're kind of, I get it that they didn't follow the directions, but just thinking like summer will be over and we could probably see him again in 2023, then no need to put him on anytime after that because he's looking for summer month rentals. So that's just like.
Well, that,
Thank you, Ms. Langway.
that,
Ms. Salsi?
that's why I made the statement. If we just do it as if we're still gonna be here, because we don't know. So rather than denying the application, act as if we are still gonna be here, because nobody knows what's gonna happen. When and if it does, then we will deal with it then. But right now, I don't think that the whole application should be denied, because we don't know what's gonna happen Wednesday night. Those are my thoughts.
I agree with that too, but I also don't want it to be accepted just because we're not here.
So what
that
about-
poses a
It's
problem.
automatic.
So then we don't really have to have a meeting, because we just go home and it'll be approved.
Yeah. then if
Let's
they-
wrap it
But
up.
they still have to
If
meet
they-
the other
if they-
requirements set by Board of
That's
Health.
one that's one of the
Follow.
ramifications of what's
Right.
going on,
Right.
is that they disband, or so-called, I forgot the term they use, but disband planning and zoning, it's free for all over town. Then they don't have to worry about an application. They can do what they want this summer.
Right, I guess if they get to do what they want.
They
Yeah,
still have to follow the state regulations,
that
Board of
being,
Health, all of the other regulations that are in place. So I say, we just go as if we are still gonna be here because nobody knows, we can't read the history or the future, so let's leave it as is. Either way, if something happens on Wednesday night, they're still gonna be able to do it. But at least we're not denying the application and holding them up another month if we are still here. That's where I'm going with this.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wright.
Mr. Chairman,
What
just
state
one minute, Mr. Hill.
regulations are you
No,
referring to?
what I'm referring to is anybody that is gonna come in and do anything, if this happens on
No, you
Wednesday
just-
night.
Just
Excuse me,
let
but
her
you
fin-
just
Mr.
quoted
Rice,
state
Mr. Rice,
regulations.
let her- let her
I said they
answer.
still have to follow state regulations. There are ordinances by the state before any building can be done. There's ordinances by the Board of Health. There's other safeguards in place. So if this happens on Wednesday night, they'd still be able to do it either way, whether we were to deny it. I don't believe that we should deny this application on something that might happen. I am taking this as, we will be here. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't want to deny somebody's application for a month.
Thank
That's
you,
where I stand on that.
Mr. Hill.
yes, Mr. Chairman, there is no one at the state level to enforce zoning regulations, only the town of Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Excuse me, Mr. Derry came in, I don't know.
So
I
I looked,
just have a question for Cindy.
Yeah.
So Cindy, if this gets approved, there's no other permits, there's no NDDH, there's
Oh, yes,
nothing.
there is. That's
There
what
is.
you read my first step. When you read my first step letter, and I know there's a lot of points, so if I missed something, it needs an NDDH approved. Definitely.
anything else from the commission?
Just to piggyback on what you're saying, the NDDH, but usually we'll get that report before we approve something,
Right, we should have that report next month
before
on
we,
the list.
before we review it or approve it.
Right.
Unfortunately, just as for the application. Do one.
Hearing no further discussion, the motion is to deny application 22-07 as an incomplete application. A yes vote will deny, a no vote will indicate some other action. Mr. Crowell.
Mike Oakley, yes.
Mr. Paplowski.
Dave Paplowski, no.
Jane Salsi, no.
Ray Williams, no.
I have to recuse myself. I am the Jerry's neighbor.
John Rice, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Charlie Langley's no.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Joseph Purdy Brown votes yes. 5 yes, 4 no, 1 abstention. The application is denied as an incomplete application. Item 4, discuss public hearing and possible action. Item 5, citizens' comments. For citizens' comments, we ask you to state your name and address. Your comments are for 3 minutes, and please direct your comments to the chair in a civilized, civil and respectful manner. Thank you.
Chair Perotti, ladies and gentlemen, in a very civil and manner. My name is George O'Neill, 122 Fabian Road. This evening, I'm addressing you as a citizen and in no other capacity. I also come before you with an urgent recommendation for your consideration. So those that are looking at their email, please focus. Since August of 2021, close attention and oversight has been directed at the Planning and Zoning Commission, the regular meetings, especially relating to new zoning, as well as other matters such as gravel mining and other issues. Up to 50 or more citizens have been monitoring the decision process and deliberations of this commission. And during these citizens' comments, some have expressed their concerns. You'll also recall that In September of 2021, hundreds of citizens turned out and attended the Planning and Zoning public hearing to address the Commission on Government Overreach, especially by this commission, as respects Second Amendment constitutional rights, Fifth Amendment property rights. However, this trend seems to continue. Now, a special town meeting has been called that could result in the dissolution of the Planning and Zoning Commission, a commission that's existed in this town for over 40 years. Rather than put the town through a potentially divisive town meeting, I recommend this commission, the Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission, do the following. First, during tonight's meeting, new business section, vote on a moratorium. Vote for a moratorium on new applications for subdivisions, zoning changes, and gravel mining operations. Second, direct staff to limit their activities and comments to those areas where staff have approval authority within their zone, within their authority range. And finally, for all those commissioners holding seats on the Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission as of November 1st, 2021, each resign their seat effective immediately, pending, of course, election and or appointment of other commissioners. Thank you for considering this serious matter, which certainly has been brought about by acts that you're all familiar with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill.
Hopefully everybody can hear me. Valerie Clark, 105 Elm Road. A month ago, I spoke to the commission during citizens' comments at this meeting, and I thanked the Planning and Zoning Commission for doing the right thing regarding open space. 2 months prior, I had asked the Planning and Zoning Commission to do the right thing and vote to approve the wording that was recommended by the Agricultural Commission for the revisions to the Plan of Conservation and Development in order to correct the omission by the town made by not documenting and codifying the 4 decades-long adoption of the open space provision. As recommended by Joan Nichols of the Connecticut Farm Bureau, this wording, as approved 2 months ago by the P&Z, was specific in documenting how the program had been administered for over 40 years. Tonight, I'm asking you again to right that wrong. The wording has been changed from what you approved and no longer resembles what was requested by the citizens of the town. Please vote to restore the wording, revise it back to the text you approved 2 months ago, and implement the specific wording in the Plan of Conservation and Development so the open space program, which has long benefited the town and its citizens, can be restored. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Dave Clark, 105 Elm Road. At the February 28th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, after a lot of discussion and comments from the general public, the commission voted 7-3 to pass the open space program as sent from the Agricultural Commission. The Agricultural Commission also had several meetings, comments from the public, and discussion to draw up their plan, which was in keeping with what was done in 1979 and with clarifications suggested by Joan Nichols of the Connecticut Farm Bureau. Looking back at the minutes from both commissions, there was a lot of public comment in favor of keeping the open space plan as outlined by the Agriculture Commission, and no public comment opposing the plan. At 2 selectmen's meetings, there was also public support in favor and none opposing, though some comments about what should not be included, such as solar fields, were made. First Selectman Amy St. Ange then took it upon herself, with no input from the other selectmen or the general public, to strip out all the wording that was passed by both the Agriculture Commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission. and alter the wording from 1979 to basically void the possibility of any land in Thompson from being in open space. Her wording was land meeting the minimum acreage threshold, which is completely unimproved and undeveloped. Note the addition of completely from what was said in 1979 and the change from or to and from unbuilt to unimproved. This differs from what was written in 1979 and completely changes the meaning. Whereas there is no land anywhere in Connecticut or southern New England for that matter that is completely unimproved and undeveloped, the Board of Selectmen effectively wiped out the open space implementation for the town of Thompson. And what is meant by completely unimproved and undeveloped? Apparently, we have entered the realm of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. It means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. I urge the commission to pass the open space ordinance as they originally did and bring this to a public meeting to create an ordinance. The people of Thompson never gave the power of veto to the selectmen. The stripping of the proposed language by Ms. St. Ange is a clear overstep of her position as first selectman. It is the duty of this commission to set this right again. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Donna Austin, 1075 Thompson Road. Just a couple thoughts, because I've been coming here and went to the selectmen's meeting on the open space. I'm not sure if all of this came about. I was thinking it came about from the last selectmen meeting is because somebody did something on their open space and they got charged a fee. So I'm not sure if this is where it all came from. And if that is where this all has come from, if we just keep what was there and maybe consider, okay, when you get your land in open space, these are the rules, these are the fees, because that's what we got when we did our land in open space. So maybe all this back and forth, what should be there, what shouldn't be there, go back to the original and maybe if you put that in, you give it to the people, they sign the paper. Yes, I got the paper, I got the fees, I got what we're supposed to do. Then they can't say, oh, I was never given it. Because I know you get it because I got it. So maybe if this is what everything has come from, it might be an easy solution. So it's not back and forth to each committee and we're going back and forth to all the different committees. If that's where this all came from, let's keep it and do something simple. When you go in open space, you get your things, you sign the paper, and then you guys would have it. Oh, here it is, right on file. You signed it. And that's just my thought of an easy way to get through all of this that's going on.
Thank you. Are there-
I don't see anyone in the Zoom room, but if anybody in the Zoom room does wish to comment, either raise your hand or type your name and address into the chat box, please.
And we'll begin here in the Senate room.
Yeah, Blair is here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Cole.
Blair Cole, 172 County Home Road. I would like to just let you know, I completely support what Val and Dave have just said. I mean, it seems to me from attending all of these meetings, the Ag Commission and the P&Z, and then watching what happened at the Selectmen's meeting, that the easiest course of action would be to just fix the problem that was left over from 1979. If this needs to be looked into, then go ahead and look into it, but give it like a real due process and a real going over and not just rewriting things kind of ad hoc at these meetings. That just doesn't seem right. And it seems everyone in town seems to be pretty up in arms about this thing. And I think that's a pretty good indication and maybe some good guidance for all the committees. I mean, if you can turn it around tonight and put it back to where it was, I think that'd be the best course of action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Hi, Sean Deary, 1 Tonopah Road. I just want to know, my thing was denied. Is that what just happened? And,
Yes, the application.
okay, so I don't really want to pretend to know everything else that's going on in here. And obviously there's a bigger fish to fry in here than mine. My only thought is, my only problem is with my situation is I bought a house that had been rented as a cottage for many, many years. It is still that. It is still the same house. Nothing has been changed. It is still rented. The only difference is that I use a rental agency called Airbnb to book it. So I don't know why that changes and what it changes and why there's even a septic communication or talk, because it is a single bedroom home the way it was when I bought it, the way it's been for 30 years. There's nothing changed. The people before me rented it. They just didn't use an outside source to rent it. So I don't know why this whole process is happening, but if and when it does come to fruition, I'd like a little bit more communication, because I'm being told that it's because it's one of the things in your book, but that's a owner occupied that has rentals. That's not me. I don't live there. I live next door. So none of it fits in any of the molds, and we're creating a mountain out of a molehill because nothing has changed except for a simple fact that the internet is part of the world today, and to get somebody to come and rent it. And if you look at any of the comments on the Airbnb site from my place, they rave about the view, they rave about the lake, they're using our amenities, they're doing everything that you would want them to do in the town. So to make that process harder for no reason is beyond me. So again, I don't know why and what everybody else is going over with the open space thing, and I apologize. I just wanted to say my piece on where I stand. Hopefully I can move forward and still do what I'm doing, at least until we get to the next process. But as far as I was concerned, I've been through zoning processes in Putnam, in Brooklyn, in all other towns. If I'm not changing the bedrooms, the septic doesn't need to change. It's been that way. It's grandfathered in. It shouldn't have to be looked at, identified, or changed. There's still only one bedroom. I have a 4-bedroom house. If I have 18 people living there, that doesn't matter. If I have 17 bathrooms, that doesn't matter. The number of bedrooms matter, and that hasn't changed, nor will it. So that's my piece. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deary. Any other citizens' comments? This time, sir.
Hi, Wayne O'Brien, 108 Fabian Road. On open space, I believe the tax assessor turned around and told everybody at a meeting, I think it was a selectman meeting, nobody has ever done any commercial property in open space. Hasn't happened. Why they're trying to prevent it if it hasn't happened in 40 years, I don't know why. I mean, it sounds to me like somebody's opening something up and peeling away something. And when you change words, it changed the meaning. You got to be really careful because bad things can happen that way. So please be careful.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Any other citizens' comments at this time?
Sally White, 308 East Thompson Road. I'm intrigued with the suggestion by Mr. O'Neill to consider those that were in office November 1st to resign. The reason it intrigues me is because it seems that it would be a very civilized and calm thing to do, and would give people an opportunity to consider the folks that they see have their interests in mind. And I think it would be good for the population and the citizens here, the taxpayer, to see a discussion among yourselves as to the merits or demerits. And I think it might leave the impression that if you didn't thoroughly discuss it and consider that, and perhaps move ahead and do that, that it might look like there's an unusual grip on office that might make some people uncomfortable. It would seem that if you are comfortable in what you have done and you're confident in the future and your actions, then you would consider that and let the legislative body, the citizens, have another opportunity. And those of you that show earnestness and want to continue would probably be voted back in. And perhaps you would have an opportunity during the interim time of reforming the commission to present yourselves to the public and show what perhaps has motivated you to do some of the things you have done, and perhaps what you would like to do or do differently in the future. And I think all of us, sometimes we get into jams or we move quickly forward on things and we don't really think it through. But this is an interesting pause to have an opportunity to speak to people, present your side, and then be reappointed or reelected. And it might be a very healthy thing to do. And I would hope, and I would encourage you all to really consider that. It would calm things down. And so I hope that you will indulge in an open discussion on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. Any other citizens' comments at this time? Yep.
Essay Road. I wasn't planning on speaking, but after hearing what Sally just said, I thought I would just, I've been thinking a lot about what's been going on the last few months. And I will tell you that after the September 27th meeting, within like 24 hours, I called the selectmen and asked how we could eliminate the town planner. And my apologies, Tira, I didn't know you then at all, and it was nothing against you. Since then, I have learned that she is a very intelligent, very interesting person, but that doesn't mean that she should be the town planner for Thompson. And I tried to express my concern to the selectmen. And instead of the selectmen just responding to me, she involved the lawyer, who then spent time referencing case law, sending me a case law that really had nothing to do with the original question that I asked. And when I wrote back and expressed that that was a concern, that why are you not answering my question, I got an answer back that said same answer. So I dropped that. The next thing I tried to do was find out how we could get members of the Planning and Zoning Commission that had not lived here and served for decades. How do we get them to resign? How do we get them to see that this is not about any one individual person? It is about a process that somehow went wrong. And I think in all these months, I have figured it out, but have no solid proof, just what I've looked at, the videos, the P&Z regulations, talking to as many people as I possibly can. And before I forget, I would like to thank those of you that have served for decades. And I want you to know that I respect you, and many, many other people in town respect you. You have gotten sucked in to a process that is horrendous. And you have my apology for the times that I've stood up here and berated you. I apologize for that. But I stand firm in my ground that anyone who has not lived in this area for at least a decade, maybe two, you have no business on this commission. Absolutely not. You are making decisions for people that love this town. And your definition of what's best for the town may not be what, I hate to say the word majority because Tira's going to remind me we're not the majority, we're the plurality. That word, yeah, maybe so, but that should count. And that's really all I wanted to point out is, yes, I've been angry, maybe been out of line, but the bottom line is nobody has listened.
Nobody. You haven't listened, nothing's changed. And I honestly don't know if all of you have actually looked at the 150 pages of regulations that have changed. And I know that they were changed in a lot of different subcommittee meetings. So maybe all of you, like if you watch the videos, all of you are not part of that. And when you came to actually approve the regulations that were submitted to you, I wonder if they were read in their completeness to you. Do you know exactly every word that was put in? Do you know the nuances of what went into it? Because I'm feeling a lot of you just didn't realize how things have changed. It's taken 6 months for some of us to look and compare the old regs with the new regs. I'm still not done. That is why I'm concerned, is that this hasn't happened. We're moving forward with things that are forever changing the character of this town. So whether it be chickens, PA 490, or anything else, we need to take a step back.
Thank
And
you.
I agree,
Thank you,
the
Ms.
new
Romano.
members have to resign. You guys have to consider resigning. You have no business being the chairman. You don't even own property in Thompson.
Ms. Romanek, your time is up. Thank
Of
you.
course it is.
I let you go a little bit longer than the alarm, Ms.
No,
Romanek.
I appreciate that. That's what it's.
Any other citizens' comments at this time? Item 6, approve minutes. So we have the minutes from the January 24th, 2022 regular meeting minutes to still be approved. Any discussion on that approval? Would you like to make your amendment, Ms. Salsi? Ms. Salsi, so go ahead, Ms. Salsi.
I'm just wondering, because at the last meeting, it was at 2 hours,
Yeah,
7 minutes.
2 hours and 7
seconds.
minutes, 4
Yeah.
seconds. I didn't hear Mr. Rice make that comment at that time.
You didn't?
I did not. There was a vote happening at that time on my video.
No. No, it was said, and there were people in this audience that heard that being said. And why you didn't hear it in the minutes, I don't know.
At 2 hours and 7 minutes and 4 seconds, we were in the middle of a vote.
It's in there, and it should be in the minutes of that meeting. That is why, and I listened to it 3 times. I can see that I don't know how, but maybe I missed up on where it was exactly, but it's in 2 hours after that meeting was started. And the 7 minutes and 4 seconds, I might be off on that, but it is in those recordings. And there are people in this audience that heard it, and it needs to be put into the minutes because there's something that is, in my opinion, shouldn't have been said. Every citizen in this town has the right to be heard, and I just want it put into the minutes. So I'll go back and listen to it again, and maybe I can find, maybe it's 2 hours and 5 minutes and 4 seconds, but that needs to be put into the minutes because it gives an indication as to where people are coming from. So I'll make a motion that we put it off till the next month's meeting. And I will go back and I will listen to it again. Like I said, I could have messed up on the 7 minutes and 4 seconds, but I don't believe, but I will go listen to it again. But that needs to be in the minutes. That was stated at a public meeting.
There is a motion on the table to table the approval of the January minutes. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Krogel. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. St. Ange.
Happy to assist, Ms. Salsi. It was 1 hour and 52 minutes. And just to clarify, Mr. Rice was quoting the town attorney. He was not stating it from himself, from his own personal opinion. And I think that needs to be clarified.
I did say that, Ms. St.
Thank you, Ms.
Ange,
Ange.
that whether he said it or was quoting the lawyer, it still was said and it still needs to be put into the minutes. So thank you for the clarification, Noah, on the hours. You saved me from going and sitting and listening again. Thank you very much. So it is in there, correct? 1 hour. Okay, so I can withdraw my amendment if it's in there. If it will be put into the minutes, I will accept what Amy has said as the hour. and we can go forward with that if it's put into the minutes.
And so you withdraw your motion?
Yes, yep, and I make a motion that the selectmen stated where it was correctly, that be put into the minutes, and that statement is put into those January minutes, please.
Ms. Salsi moves the approval of the January minutes with the amendment that at 1 hour and 52 minutes, Mr. Rice quoted the town attorney
Yeah.
that citizens do not have the right to be heard at a public meeting. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Williams. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Rice?
If I can. As was said, I was quoting, reading from the lawyer, what he indicated. And what I was trying to get across is that the people, citizens, do not have the right to speak other than at a public hearing, when a public hearing is open, okay? Is that they can't, unless it's on the agenda on the citizens' comments, is that we can't have, say, that next application or the application that we have, or anything that's on the agenda. People we don't go back and forth with the citizens. They don't have a right to do it. That's just like you or me going to Congress. They have a subcommittee meeting, walking in, hey, I want to say something because I have a right to talk. You don't. And like I say, during citizens' comments, all well and good. There's a public hearing, all well and good. That's the time that they have a right. Other than that, anything that's on the agenda, they don't have a right to speak unless there was something that's a chairman on an application, he wants clarification for something, then a member of the public can speak.
Ms. Salsi?
I had stated, and I did not use your name, Mr. Rice, and I
Well-
did not use your name until I was forced to use your name, because that's not what this is about. It is not about you saying, I wanted it put into the minutes, and I had publicly stated, didn't know whether you were saying it or quoting the town attorney, but it needed to be put into the minutes because it was something that is, in my opinion, needs to be looked at. When a town attorney says, be careful about letting people speak at meetings, that's upsetting. You quoted him. My goal was to get the statement put into the meeting, not who said it. And that's why I held your name back until I was forced to say it. It's not about you and me. It is about what is right and what needs to go into. That is my clarification. And as far as what you just said, prior to that, we didn't even have 2 areas in the agenda for the citizens to speak.
Right.
That was part of the problem. So we've corrected that. Now I just want to make sure that it's corrected, that it's put into the minutes.
Ms. Salsi, Mr. Krogel?
All right. I understand what Mr. Rice is saying. I understand what Ms. Celsius is saying. I may get myself in trouble here. She is correct in the sense that the citizens should know that in public meetings, they do not have the right to speak unless it is during citizens' comments or something of that nature.
Public hearing.
For a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay. So if it goes into the minutes, all well and good, because that is now notifying the citizenry that they do not have the right to speak. And that's just the way it is with the law and everything else. You
That's
go-
why we put the 2
and-
places.
Right, right, but you go to any other meeting, it's the same situation. So all well and good that people now realize they do not have the right to speak.
Clarification.
Clarification is great, but it's not Mr. Rice saying you don't have a right to speak. It may not be general knowledge, but it is known that you only have certain times that you can speak,
And it has to be on the agenda.
and it has to be on the agenda. So I don't, I just
Yeah,
want to be
thank
known
you.
that
Thank you.
I hear both sides, both people have a point. and I
It's
hope we
a
can move on.
clarification, and I just want it in the minutes because it is a very important clarification.
And the motion is to approve the minutes. Any further discussion on that motion to approve the minutes?
I don't know where you put my name into, but it's okay with me. But I attended a selectmen's meeting a couple of times ago. And there was a citizen that was pointing the finger at me relative to this, that I said, that the citizen didn't have a right to speak. And so I guess the word was out. I was the one that said that. But there again, it was a case of me quoting the
Lawyer.
lawyer and what
And-
Robert's rules said,
And
actually.
again, like I said, it's a clarification, and that's what I was going for.
And if I may, one more thing,
Mr. Krogel.
it is not a tete-a-tete.
Mhm.
You do not have conversation. It's citizens' comments. They can make their statements. And we
And we
have to
don't
take it
go
into
back and
consideration, but we
Yeah.
do not converse with
Yes.
it.
Mr. Blackmore.
I believe, well, I know South Sea was at the FOI meeting when we had the person from the state in, and in his comments, he made the comments, the only thing that's supposed to be in the minutes are action and votes, and just the general conversation like that does not need to be recorded in the minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Blackmore. Ms. Solacey.
I was at that
I
meeting,
said you were.
and let me tell you, it doesn't have to be put in. I go above what has to be done. The citizens have a right to know what is in the minutes, what is stated, and how it's done. Because if you just go in and look at whether something has been voted on and passed or not passed, that doesn't give you any information as to what is going on with that committee. So freedom of information, which I have been involved with and used countless times, I can't remember. It's a guideline, it's not a law. I go above that law. I want the citizens to know what goes on at a meeting, what is said at a meeting, and it needs to be done correctly. It's a clarification. Everything is clarified now. And that was my point of getting this done. And as far as the Freedom of Information Act goes, like I said, that's a guideline. It's not a law. So we can put whatever we want into those minutes, providing this is what we agree on. And we have been doing this along, like many of you tell me, this is the way we've done it for a long time. We put comments and things into the minutes. So freedom of information is a guideline. We have gone above and beyond that guideline, which I commend the commission for, because we do put in what is being said and what is being done and when it is passed. So that is, I'm very thankful for that, because there's not every board that does that. Thanks.
Ms. Langlois.
Sorry. Well, I wasn't here for that whole interaction, but what I will say is when you made that comment to put it in the minutes, it sounded like it was attacking Mr. Rice. Whether you want it to be in the minutes or not, and you didn't say the name at first, but eventually you came out, and I still feel like by putting it in the minutes, it's an attack. So I'm not participating in that. That's not what I'm sitting on this commission for. I've been sitting here with Mr. Rice for 4 years, 6 years, because 2 years I was an alternate. And if you don't know the people sitting at this table's heart, then that's a problem, and you need to come and sit out in that room for 4 years and listen to the meetings and listen to the people that spend countless of times sitting at this table for the community and for the citizens of the town. If you want to know what happens at a meeting, come to a meeting. If you want to see people's heart, come and see what we're saying, not on a piece of paper, because that paper, if I read the minutes the way you want to put that in the minutes, I would assume that he doesn't care about anybody in the town, because he said, you don't have a right to say anything. And that's not what he meant
Mr.
to say.
Chairman, I would like
Ms.
to
Hussain.
respond to that. Number one, I worked very hard not to bring his name up. It was only because I was forced to bring it up. In the beginning, I said this statement was made at a meeting. It needs to go into the minutes. It was left out. I was not attacking Mr.
But if
Rice.
you were at the meeting,
Ms.
you would have heard, you would have known who said it.
It wasn't put into the minutes, period. That was my goal, not to say that Mr. Rice said it. My purpose was to have that put into the minutes because it is a statement, whether it came from him, you, me, lawyer, whatever. That's a pretty important statement that was being said, telling the people of this town they don't have the right to speak. I was not pointing at him or saying him. I take offense by what you just said. Do not insult me.
The motion on the table is to approve the minutes as amended. Is there any further discussion on the motion? A yes approves as amended. Mr. Krogel,
Yes.
Yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Brian Santos abstain. I was absent.
We're voting on what was just changed.
Amended.
to approve as amended.
As amended, yes.
Ms. Langlois?
I don't like the way that it's written. If the name is omitted, then I would say yes. If Mr. Rice's name's in there, I would say no.
I didn't ask for Mr. Rice's name to be put in. I wanted the statement.
The,
So I don't know how it's written.
Gloria, I believe the motion as read was Mr. Rice quoted the attorney. Is that right?
Laura speaking to the mic in response to this.
It's just not.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure as amended, it says Mr. Rice. Yeah.
And then what the
Quoting
attorney
the,
said,
quoting
quoting
the,
the attorney. Yes.
Mr. Blackmer,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Prody Brown, yes.
That's all I wanted.
Item 6B, February 17th, 2022, special meeting minutes. This was a subdivision subcommittee meeting. Ms. Solacey, Mr. Blackmer, Mr. Lanky, Mr. Williams, Mr. Hill, and Mr. Santos were present at that meeting.
A motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Santos, seconded by Mr. Blackmer to approve the special meeting minutes of February 17th. Mr. Blackmer. I'm sorry. Yes. Any discussion on the motion? My apologies. Hearing no discussion, a yes will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Blackmer.
Yes.
Ms. Langlois.
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Mr. Rice.
Abstain.
Brian Santos, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Dave Polsky abstain.
Mike Kruger abstain.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
And Joseph Prody Brown abstain. The minutes are approved. February 23rd, 2022, special meeting minutes. This is a subdivision subcommittee meeting at which Mr. Lanky, Ms. Salcy, Mr. Hill, Mr. Poplawski, and I were present.
Make a motion that the minutes be accepted.
Hang on a minute, I was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
On the 23rd,
I haven't missed any of them.
my apologies, then I must have missed your name as I was tallying.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have Ray Williams, 7:20.
Oh, my apologies. That's why I missed you there. Sorry. Ray. Ms. Halsey has moved the approval of the February 23rd, 2022 special meeting minutes. I will second the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes vote will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Krogel.
Mike Kruger abstain.
Dave Polsky, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Brian Santos abstain, absent.
John Rice abstain, absent.
Charlie Langlois abstain.
Randy Blackmer abstain.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Prody Brown, yes. The minutes are approved. March 2nd, 2002, special meeting minutes. This was a subdivision subcommittee meeting at which Mr. Hill, Mr. Williams, Ms. Salcy, Mr. Santos, Mr. Poplawski, and I were present.
A motion to approve.
I second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Santos, seconded by Ms. Salcy to approve the minutes of the March 2nd special meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, a yes will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Blackmer.
Abstain, present.
Charlene abstain, Langlois, aye.
John Rice abstain.
Brian Santos, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Dave Polsky, yes.
Mike Kruger abstain.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Prody Brown, yes. The minutes are approved. 6F, March 17th, 2022.
It's March 7th.
I'm sorry, I skipped March 7th. Yeah, March 7th. The 7 and the 17 have thrown me. March 7th, 2022, special meeting. Mr. Williams, Mr. Hill, Mr. Poplawski, Ms. Halsey, Mr. Santos, Mr. Blackmer, and I were present.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Second that.
Motion made by Ms. Halsey, seconded by Mr. Williams to approve the minutes of the March 7th special meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, a yes will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Krogel.
Mike Krogel abstain.
Dave Plosky, yes.
Jane Salcy, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
John Wright.
Mr. Rice.
John Rice, abstain.
Shelley Langway is abstaining.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. March 17th, 2022, special meeting minutes. This was a subdivision subcommittee meeting at which Mr. Williams, Mr. Hill, Mr. Santos, Mr. Lanky, Ms. Salsi, and Ms. Orlovac were present.
I make a motion, the minutes are accepted.
I'll second.
Motion made by Ms. Salsi, seconded by Mr. Santos to approve the minutes of the March 17th special meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, a yes will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Blackmer.
Abstain.
Shelley Langway is abstaining.
She's not voting tonight.
John Rice, abstain.
Brian Santos, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salcy, yes.
Dave Plosky, abstain.
Mike Krogel abstain.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
And Joseph Brody Brown abstains. March 24th, special meeting minutes. This is a subdivision subcommittee meeting at which Mr. Williams, Mr. Hill, Mr. Lengi, Ms. Salsi, and I were present.
Make a motion, the minutes are accepted.
I second the motion. Motion has been made by Ms. Salsi, seconded by Mr. Brody Brown to approve the March 24th special meeting minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Krogel.
Mike Krogel abstain.
Dave Plosky, abstain.
Jane Salcy, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Brian Santos abstain, absent.
John Rice, abstain, absent.
Shelley Langway is abstaining.
Randy Blackmer, abstain.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yeah.
Joseph Purdy Brown, yes. The minutes are approved. March 28th, 2002, a regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, which were in our packet.
I have one, can I speak? I have one thing on that concerning I believe it was what Mr. O'Brien had said from 108 Fabian Road, whether deer hunting was permitted on his land. I think he was asking, if I remember correctly, could he dress any deer on his land? And Mr. Blackmer had told him, yes, not hunt, but it was dressing. So that was the correction that I wanted to see put in. So I would ask that it be amended and the proper wording.
Okay, Ms. Salsi has moved the amendment of the regular meeting minutes of March 28th, 2022 in citizens' comments under Wayne O'Brien of 108 Fabian Road, questioned if dressing deer is permitted on his land instead of deer hunting. Is there a second to the motion?
I will second.
Any objection to the amendment? Hearing none, the amendment is entered into the minutes. Any further discussion on the regular meeting minutes of March 28th?
I make the motion that the minutes be accepted as amended.
Motion made by Ms. Halsey to accept the minutes of the March 28th meeting as amended,
No second.
seconded by Mr. Krobel. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Ms. Lang.
Shelley Langway, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Brian Santos abstain. I was not seated that night.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Dave Kapowski, yes.
Mike Krugel, yes.
Mr. Hill,
Alvin Hill, yes.
and Joseph Perotti Brown, yes. Item 6I, March 31st, 2022 special meeting. This was a subdivision subcommittee meeting at which Mr. Williams, Mr. Hill, Ms. Salsi, Mr. Santos, and Mr. Poplawski were present.
Make a motion, the meeting minutes are accepted.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Salsi, seconded by Mr. Santos to accept the minutes of the March 31st special meeting. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer abstained.
Charlie Langley abstained.
John Rice abstained.
Brian Santos, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Dave Kapowski, yes.
Mike Krugel, abstain.
Mr. Hill
Alvin Hill, yes.
and Joseph Perotti Brown abstains. I was absent. Item 6J, April 6, 2022 special meeting minutes. Now, this was a subdivision subcommittee meeting at which Mr. Williams, Mr. Santos, Ms. Salsi, Mr. Lenke, Mr. Rice, Mr. Hill, Mr. Poplawski, and Mr. Blackmer were present.
Make a motion, the minutes are accepted.
Second that.
Motion made by Ms. Salsi, seconded by Mr. Williams to accept the minutes of the April 6th special meeting. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Krogel.
Mike Krugel, abstain.
Kapowski, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Charlie Langley abstained.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mr. Hill,
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Perotti Brown abstain. I was absent. Item 7, applications. Application 22-11, applicant Webster Lake Realty LLC, Sanat Patel, owner of 1394 Thompson Road, map 114, block 27, lot 24, zone BDD, building addition, first floor retail store, second floor business professional offices.
Janet.
Could you come to the microphone, Ms. Blanchard?
I have it. Mr. Chairman, I have an easel with the project plan. Should I bring the microphone over there and set the plans up over there? How would you like me to?
So with my-
I don't think there's enough cord to go over there, Janet. You'll have to bring the easel over.
Bring the easel over
Yeah, I
here?
think so.
Thank you.
Good evening, commission members. I'm Janet Blanchett, professional engineer with J&D Civil Engineers. I'm representing the applicant, Mr. Sanat or Sunny Patel, who's with me this evening, and his daughter as well. He's the owner of the business. So I think everybody's probably pretty familiar with Webster Lake Variety. It's on Route 193 on the west-hand side, almost into Massachusetts. The zone for this district is Business Development District. The current use on the property, there's a home, so it's used, there's a residential use, a retail use, which is the convenience store. And above the convenience store is like passive commercial storage. So what, and the uses that are proposed are in conformance with the zoning regulations with a site plan approval by the commission. A colored plan before you, and first, maybe just to get into a little bit of history, there used to be an old Labonte's convenience store up to 2012. So this property has been used commercially for many, many years. That was taken down and a new modern convenience store was put to the back to have adequate parking and safety and new septic system and everything. So the existing store is what's here, like in the hat, and the proposed addition is the red. So essentially, right next, it's an addition, it'll be slightly larger. The existing is about 3,200 square feet, and the addition will add about 5,400 square feet. But one thing that he will be doing will be demolishing the existing single-family house that sits up back in the hill behind the store. So his business is doing very well. I've been very successful for the last 10 years, and that's the reason why he wants to expand. Currently, there are 16 spaces in the front lot with a few in the back, and after construction, there would be a second parking lot added up, up to the rear behind the building, a second level. So that would bring the number of total parking spaces to 27. And so this setup, which I'm sure you're pretty much familiar with, is the first floor. The lower floor is accessible from the front. Because it's built into the hill with the slope, all the business uses on the second story are accessible from the rear with an at-grade entrance. So in the proposed, when he builds the addition, the lower story would be retail. And then if you drive around back to the second story, the proposal is for business and professional offices. What he does hope his first choice is if he can add a liquor store next to his convenience store. But after in discussions with Cindy and knowing the regulations, I mean, that's a state license issue. He doesn't know if he will get a state license. In fact, Cindy has indicated to me that she thinks Thompson already has its quota. But if it were to be, if he were to get a license and it was to become a liquor store, he does meet all of your zoning separation distances for, churches, schools, theaters, all the things that you have. And that's on the cover sheet, I do kind of list that, the distances. If he doesn't get a license, he still wants to do the building addition irregardless. The business is doing really well. He'll just offer more goods, have more inventory. So he still wants to expand the building. And any office that's business or professional office in the upper floor will be more or less like a dry business. It doesn't use a lot of water because of the size of the septic system. We have Department of Health approval for this change of use. So he's not going to be putting in like any restaurants, laundromats, anything that uses a lot of water. Because retail uses, business office uses don't use a whole lot of water. And he has a new septic system that was put in 2012 up on the hill. Really good gravel on this site, so that's working well. He actually has public water from Webster, very kind of unique in Thompson. There are no wetlands nearby, so there isn't the need for a wetlands approval. One of the challenges of designing this site, I think the work even to accomplish, is handling the stormwater runoff and the drainage. Because when you add impervious area, obviously there's more runoff when it rains. And since the whole lower portion of the property is already like being used, you couldn't put any above ground stormwater detention. So you can see the kind of like this tan rectangle that I have underneath the upper parking lot will be underground stormwater chambers that will treat the runoff from the parking lot, will allow it to infiltrate into the ground, and then will overflow into the main site drainage system, which then goes out into the state road. And so it was designed so that there won't be an increase in runoff as a result of adding the new impervious area. And also some impervious area is actually being lost to some extent because the house is being taken down and they have a paved parking lot too. So it's, a calculation using the net impervious. So, I mean, hopefully, I believe it's a relatively straightforward project. It's a commercial building addition. The uses for the retail uses and office uses are permitted in the zone with a site plan approval. He's been, growing his business in Thompson, something we like to see for our tax revenue. And I'm available to answer any questions, and any questions that I can't answer, then maybe Sunny can as well.
Any questions for Ms. Blanchett? Mr. Rice?
On Thompson Road, are there state catch basins on there? Because you mentioned water coming down into the parking lot onto East Thompson.
Yes, when this project was,
I don't see them here.
yeah, they're right here.
Okay.
And there's one right here.
Should there be one put on the bottom of that driveway so we don't end up with the same problems that we have on Madison Avenue with the water coming down that hill into the road in the wintertime?
Well, that's what I just asked.
Right, but it's
Right,
way,
that there's
it's way
two of
down
them.
past
One on
where the
each side.
driveway is. The driveway.
Yes. There's already an existing paved driveway to the back, so the expansion of that driveway will be these, to make it wider for two-way traffic will be these two areas. This parking lot is actually drained into itself. So this parking lot does not drain down the road. So it's the driveway itself. And if it drains down, it hits the catch basins inside the property. It does not go out. into the
Okay, I
state
didn't see the
right
ones
away.
on the inside of the property. That long way, so that used to be an antique store. before
Yeah,
it was a
whoa,
Longo's.
that was probably before my time.
And the school nurse used to live in the house up in the back. This is where
Any other questions for Ms. Blanchett or for Ms. Dunn?
Motion to approve application 2211.
I second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Santos, seconded by Ms. Salsi to approve application 22-11. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Hill. Just one
can I
second.
ask Jan?
Go ahead, Alvin.
Yeah, I would like to ask Janet a question on number 15, the relatively large underground stormwater infiltration bed is proposed. My question, Janet, is anyone going to be on site to record that construction of it? Are you going to get a report for it? I mean, it's from your report, there's 9,000 cubic feet. That's quite a large underground stormwater retention.
The commission could make as a condition of approval that the engineer inspect the underground stormwater system and verify that the size was, that it was installed correctly. I mean, sometimes that happens if your own town staff isn't available or have the expertise.
That answer your question, Mr. Hill?
Yes, it does, and I do wish to make sure that's in our motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. Rice?
Yeah.
A motion to amend to include that Thompson Building Department prior to its closure or backfilling operation of the storm tank be evaluated and confirmed of its appropriate size. I was going to say the building department because they make the inspections, right? At certain periods of time. I understand. You can do, you want to do that, Cindy? All right. Instead of building department, RC.
I second that motion.
Thank you. So Mr. Santos has amended his motion to approve application 22-11 with the condition that the zoning enforcement officer will inspect the stormwater infiltration system before completion of the project. And Ms. Halsey seconded the motion as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, a yes will approve the application with condition, no will deny. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Darling Langley, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsi, yes.
Dave Podolsky, yes.
Mike Krogel, yes.
Mr. Hill?
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes, the application is approved.
Thank you very much.
Application 22-14, applicant Hani Youssef, property owner at 292 Riverside Drive, map 87, block 95, lot 39, zone TCD, 1.93 acres. Request a special permit to operate an adult use cannabis dispensary according to Town of Thompson zoning regulations. Article 4E, Thompson Corridor Development District, Section 2, Table of Permitted Use, number 20, Article 5AC, adult use cannabis, and Article 3A, Section 4-A, B, and C.
Mr. Joseph has his name in the state lottery. And he will have all the site plans.
So as a special permit, public hearing is required.
I'll accept, yeah, I'll accept it. I'll second it, yes. I'll second that.
Mr. Poplaski moves to accept application 2214 for a public hearing at our next regular meeting on May 23rd, 2022 at 7 PM. Ms. Salsi seconds the motion. Any further discussion?
Just one clarifying, the 292 address, when I looked this up, is actually Riverside Pizza.
It's 274, actually.
Is it 274? I just
Yeah.
want to make sure. So 292 is correct, right? No, right. Or is it 270?
I mean, yeah, it's 274 where he's gonna have it, because it's gonna be down the road. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
I stopped over and seen him the
So
other
it's
day.
Jason's old property, right? So,
Yes, Jason's old property.
so it's right next to the T-Rex.
Yeah.
Okay, just
Yeah.
want to make a point of saying that, okay?
I seen that the other day and I stopped to talk to him.
So just making a point of saying that and getting the address right. So I don't know. Where's the actual- I just don't know if we should update that address to be proper on the application. Is that on it?
274.
Okay, it just says 292 on the meeting minutes. Okay,
All
right.
Mailing address is 292.
okay, okay, fine. Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santos.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, a yes will set the public hearing, a no will deny the application. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Darling Langley, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsi, yes.
Dave Podolsky, yes.
Mike Krogel, yes.
Mr. Hill?
Alvin, you're on mute.
Mr. Hill?
Yeah.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. We'll call that an abstention. Applications received after agenda posted. We have application 22-15.
That's very hard to see. Except for a public hearing next month.
This is a special permit for gravel mining, which
And this is just for the hearing, correct?
requires a public hearing.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
I will entertain a motion.
Mike will make the motion that we put application 2215 on next month's agenda.
I have site plans here, which we got a copy next month.
Mr. Krogel moves the acceptance of application 22-15 for public hearing at the May 23rd, 2022 regular meeting of the Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission, seconded by Ms. Langlois. Any discussion on the motion?
I have one, about 3 months ago, they came in for a permit. And they wanted, there was something about 11 acres over there. Is this the 11 acres that they said it was gonna take 10 years to come and dig up?
Ms. Dunn, are you able to speak to that?
It is the same.
That's the problem.
So it's the same one, the same
Yes.
11, and that they said would take 10 years,
Yes.
last 10 years.
Yeah, very fast, 10
Very
years.
fast.
Any further discussion?
Just wanted to make a general comment if I can, Joe, about this. I would have preferred to see a pre-application submitted with some data on this, just because of the size of complexity of the project. I just wanted to make it- I don't think I can deny that because there was no pre-application completed. I think that's just a recommendation from us, but I would have preferred to have seen it that way prior to submitting the application. Just wanted to make a general point about it.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Any other discussion? Hearing none, a yes vote will set the public hearing for our May meeting. A no vote will deny. Mr. Crowe.
Mike Kogo, yes.
Yes.
Gene Salsa, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Sean Langlois, yes.
Ray Blackmore, yes.
Mr. Hill,
Still on mute.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. Item 9, reports of officer and staff.
Yet the big project, of course, is still the subdivision regulations rewrite. The bulk of it is complete on its second pass through. The only content we haven't gone through a second time is the appendices. We have had to reschedule, as you know, or cancel or reschedule for vacations, things like that. Starting the appendices, I figure we will need another 2 weeks for that, maybe 3 at the most. I think the only complicated appendix is the road construction standards. That one will take up quite a bit of time in a meeting. We have the option of scheduling one for this Thursday. I would say, given some of the unknowns that we are facing, we're probably better off scheduling for next Wednesday, the 4th, and if things go strangely on Wednesday, then obviously that would be canceled. So if the commission is amenable, we can just schedule that now, Wednesday, the 4th.
Is there any objection to scheduling a special meeting for Wednesday, May 4th via Zoom at 7 p.m.? I hear none. It's so scheduled.
So that would be appendices 1 through 3, or A through C, they're lettered A through C. And then I think we would only need one more meeting after that, but assume that we could have 2.
Thank you. Item 9B, the CEO memo.
If anybody has any questions, I just want to let you know that there's no building permit for COs on here this time. So we'll make it up next week, next month. Maybe.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. 9C, Town of Thompson Budget Reports, March 2022. Comments, questions, commentary on that? Hearing none, we will move on. Item 10, correspondence. We had quite a bit of mail this month. Any questions, comments on any of these notifications or notices that we received? Hearing none. Move to item 11, signing of Mylar. PZC application 22-02 subdivision 0 Thompson Road. Robbins.
Chair be authorized to sign.
Motion made by Mr. Blackmer, seconded by Mr. Rice to authorize the chair to sign the Mylar for application 22-02. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes will authorize, a no will not. Mr. Krogel.
Mike Crowell, yes.
Dave Kloski, yes.
Jane Saucy, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
All right, yes.
Charlie Langley's yes.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mr. Hill
Alvin Hill, yes.
and Joseph Grody Brown, yes. Item 12, old business, PA 490. Going to turn it over to Tira to discuss the differences in the language approved by the Board of Selectmen. So the potential actions for us are to amend the plan of conservation and development. Again, or to take some other action.
Everybody get this copy?
Right, so to be clear, the Planning and Zoning Commission passed up a set of language to the Board of Selectmen to review, because the way the process works is you guys are the owners, so to speak, of the Planning, Conservation and Development, but the Board of Selectmen has to essentially ratify your choices there. So the Board of Selectmen sent back some amended language, which therefore now you have to review and either approve, amend, or deny. And Mr. Chairman, I think you had said just to read the bullet points at the end rather than read the whole thing over again, right? Just the area that was changed.
Yes, I think that makes the most sense.
All right, so the amended language that was sent back for your consideration this evening. In order to reduce the financial pressure to sell land and to incentivize the preservation of open space within the town of Thompson, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends the adoption of the open space classification of PA 490 with the following criteria. Land in all zoning districts of Thompson is eligible for consideration. The minimum area eligible for classification as open space shall be 3 acres of vacant or undeveloped land. In the town of Thompson, the following land types shall be eligible for the open space classification. Land meeting the minimum acreage threshold, which is completely unimproved and undeveloped. In cases where a parcel includes portions which contain a residential dwelling or commercial building, the 3-acre minimum shall be land in excess of any portion containing such a structure. That portion shall be calculated at a minimum as the area of a single building lot within that zone. Land set aside under the open space requirements for a subdivision or a conservation subdivision shall not be eligible for enrollment in PA 490. Such land is to be preserved permanently as open space as described in the subdivision regulations of the town of Thompson. And that is it.
Mr. Rice.
No, what we previously approved the first paragraph to include it in the POCD
Yes.
already. So what we have to do tonight is just to add to the POCD the 3 bullets.
So
Yeah.
that would be, yes, the proposed amendment with the following criteria and the
Four
bullet points.
bullet points.
Yeah.
Well, 4 bullets and 2 sub-bullets.
Okay, all right.
Ms. Salcy.
Okay, my understanding is what Tara just read is what we voted on. What we have and were given tonight is what the language was changed at the selectmen's meeting. We voted on this already and passed it, as did the Agricultural Commission and passed it, as did the person from the state. I do not believe that we need to change the wording. There's been 2 commissions that have passed this already. How many people does that make? And one person has come in to change it, which drastically changes the meaning of PA 490.
I move that we keep it as we passed it, as the whole board had discussed it and talked about it, and we voted on it. I do not believe we need to add those changes. We voted on it, Ag Commission voted on it as the original, what Tara just read. It does not need to be changed, and that does not need to be added in. All of us voted on this. There's more people that have voted on this. There's been more citizens that have come forward concerning this. It does not need to be changed. And I'm a little bit irritated that we now are being told, never mind what you did, I want you to change this. I don't believe we should change it. I believe it needs to be kept where we voted it in. We've spent enough time on PA 490. So did the Ag Commission. Leave it as it is. The wording does not need to be changed. I move that we take it as we originally voted on it. There's an awful lot of people that have put time and energy, discussion, research into this. We've already voted on it once. Doesn't need to be changed. I make a motion that we keep it as it was, as we voted.
Okay, Ms. Elsey has moved to maintain the language as currently adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Mr. Williams. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before, just to clarify something that Ms. Salsi said, what I read was not the text that the Planning and Zoning Commission sent
Oh,
up.
I thought it was what I had here.
No, what I read was the
Oh,
text
okay.
that was sent
This
back
is-
down
I
by the
can
Board of
read
Selectmen.
What this says if it need be, because this is what we voted on. The only difference is that they want to put in land meeting the minimum acreage threshold, which is completely unimproved and undeveloped. As stated earlier, there is no piece of property in all of Connecticut that has been undeveloped or unimproved in some way. It is a huge restriction. Again, we voted on this. So did the Ag Commission. It was passed by both commissions. Why are we again revisiting this after all of these people have voted, researched, talked, come forward, and all the citizens that have come forward? Leave it as it is and be done with it. We voted on it once.
Mr.
Don't need to
Chairman,
put
one
anything
more
else in.
point, and then I know Amy and John are waiting. To be clear procedurally, if more changes are made at this level, it has to go back to the Board of Selectmen again. Each time it passes back and forth, those bodies have an opportunity to make amendments. So just to be clear of what happens if you change it again, it will go back to the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, I was under that would go to the POCD, not the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, it's a little odd.
Why is it going back to the selectmen instead of POCD?
So the Plan of Conservation and Development is a document that the Planning and Zoning Commission is essentially the owner of. However, when the Planning and Zoning Commission proposes to adopt changes to that document, it has to essentially be ratified by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
So they don't technically approve it, but they can disapprove it
Okay.
and send it back to you.
Okay, my statement stands. We have voted on this. We have passed this. The Ag Commission passed it. We've had, I don't know, countless citizens that have come forward and said, leave it as it is. Do not change it. Do what is right. The people have spoken. We don't need to change the wording in this. Leave it as it is. We voted on it. If it goes, Selectman's office really needs to listen to what the people are saying in this town. And they have spoken very clearly. And we worked on this, as did the Ag Commission. And now we're being told, nah, I don't like what you put in. I want you to change it. No, it needs to be left as we voted on it and accepted it, as did the Ag Commission, as the people in this community want. We've done it once. We don't need to do it again. If that's the case, we are going to be going back and visiting everything. This needs to be left as we voted on it already.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Mr. Rice and Ms. St. Ange.
The process is that we send whatever we decided on to the selectmen. They approve or disapprove it, and then it comes back to us
Yes,
for
I
the
thought we
final
know that.
thing. Well,
Yeah.
they have an opportunity to change things.
Yes,
And
Mr.
that's
Rice.
what you're saying, and you keep mentioning Joan Nichols. I was there at that meeting, and she said pretty much is that only 2 items, going back to the original that was stated that the minimum of the 3 acres. That's all she said, and I think you're adding in other things that
No,
she
no,
said
that's-
she didn't say that.
No,
at
what
that
I'm
meeting.
stating is
Just what-
we voted on this already. We've accepted this. And the thing is, so did the Ag Commission. I don't believe that anything needs to be changed to what we voted on. That's what I'm saying, Mr. Rice. We don't need to change anything. We've already voted on it. And the people have spoken. I'm trying
I'm
to
just
do what
gonna,
the
I'm gonna
people
go
want.
to Ms. St. Ange and then Mr. Williams and then back to Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought it was apropos for me to at least explain the Board of Selectmen's position since our decision has been sort of scrutinized. This wasn't something that was taken lightly. The Board of Selectmen represents the entire population. Those who wrote the criteria have open space. If you were in Washington, DC, and you were a senator or a congressman, do you think there would be scrutiny if the lobbyist wrote the legislation? These are people with special interests. The Board of Selectmen represent the entire community. Open space costs the town 0.8 mils. I know there's benefits to it. I understand that. I believe in open space. I don't want to see it go. But we've been faced with a few people who have said that robust discussion is good unless it threatens their agenda. All the selectmen are doing is trying to have a discussion about it. At our first Board of Selectmen meeting on March 15th, I looked at Ms. Clark and I said, can we use the language unbuilt and undeveloped, which was from 1979, unbuilt or undeveloped? No, they wanted what was proposed. Talk to Joan Nichols, I was told. I reached out to Joan Nichols. She sent me the Connecticut Farm Bureau guide. Joan Nichols wouldn't speak to me. Why is that funny? It's a guide by the Connecticut Farm Bureau, and I was told to reach out to Ms. Nichols and Connecticut Farm Bureau. And you are out of order. Point of order.
Point of order.
Order.
Because I'm the
So
ex officio
The
member.
selectman, the first selectman is a
I am
an
member
ex
of every
officio member
commission.
of the commission.
Ask them what the definition of development is.
So the first thing I proposed was that there be a definition. That was argued too. The first one I proposed had a definition for development. And I was told, strike that. That was written by Tira. Well, yeah, because it came from the zoning regulations. Move the goalpost here. Amy runs to it. Nope, it's here now. Now I get to that goalpost and it gets moved back here. They are not up for actual discussion. So let's go back to Connecticut Farm Bureau. Yes, it's a guide, but I think it's more of a Bible since Joan Nichols was heralded as the queen of PA 490. It says, the municipality adopts an open space assessment ordinance, and we still have not written the ordinance. This is just the plan of conservation and development. This just brings us to the point where we will make an ordinance that will have to go to town meeting for approval. And that's yet to be done. This is just the first step. This doesn't define everything. So the municipality adopts an open space assessment ordinance, which stipulates the qualifications, criteria for the open space classification in that municipality. The criteria establishes the minimum acreage, which we did, 3 acres from 1979, as well as requiring that the land be completely unimproved and undeveloped. The definitions for unimproved and undeveloped will follow when we get into the ordinance. And then the town, the entire town, will have the right to vote for it or against it. And that's all we're asking of. I was sent to the Connecticut Farm Bureau to get information. What we presented to the commission now is from this guidebook, and it benefits the entire population. Any questions?
So I had recognized Mr. Williams and Mr. Rice, so we'll go there.
I sat in on all of the ag meetings myself, and Miss Nichols, Miss Nichols, she said that to keep it as close to what we have, so we don't turn our town upside down. And we're turning our town upside down over just a couple words. And I think we should keep this as it was written from the Ag Committee and that we already voted on. There's no reason to, and if we have to look at it further on down the road, look at it further on down the road. This should be put in the way it was written. And like I said, if we have to look at it further on down the road, get it codified the way it is, and let other people, get more people in on it. We've had countless people here in the town come up and speak on this passionately, and then it's a slap in the face to every one of them if we change what was already done through the two commissions.
Mr. Rice, then Ms. Elsey, then Mr. Blackman.
No, I just, you're saying we ought to listen to Joan Nichols, and she's the one that's saying that was just mentioned. She's the one that said that it should be unimproved and undeveloped.
That's what the book
That's what
says.
the book says.
Well, yeah, I know, but you keep on, wait a minute, is that, Mr. Chairman, you keep on going back. It seems to me is that if it's in favor, then we ought to quote Joan Nichols. If it's something we don't like, then you're not saying.
I have a
And
solution
I
to
think what
that.
Joan Nichols is saying is that we honored what was passed in the past with that 3 acres. And it also with that undeveloped, what Joan Nichols is saying, you're referring to the Ag Commission. The Ag Commission, that's what it is, right? They had her in that meeting.
Ms. Elsey.
Okay. Let's clarify this. About Joan Nichols. We voted on this already.
Who's we know?
The
Clarify.
commission,
Okay.
the zoning commission has voted on this. The ag commission has voted on this. Both commissions accepted it as it was. Now, am I correct, Amy? You said that this, then it goes to a town meeting to be accepted, correct? Okay, yeah,
The ordinance, not the
the
POCD.
ordinance.
Mhm.
So if the ordinance, the way it is written, and the ordinance goes to a town meeting, the people can vote that down if they don't like the way it's written, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, we've already voted on this, so did the other commission. We don't need to make any changes. We need to move it forward. That's all I'm saying. I appreciate everything that you have done, because I really know the work. Let's just put it down. It's done. Let's keep it the way we voted on it, the way the Ag Commission voted on it, and let's move forward from there and let the ordinance be written and then let it go to the town meeting so the people can speak. I believe that's how we need to do this so that we can get past this without making any changes. Keep it as we voted on it. That was my motion.
Thank you, Ms. Elsey. Mr. Blackman.
All right. Amy is correct. Joan Nichols said that it should be undeveloped, and she said that. And there was pressure put on to the Ag Commission to, and I'll say that I was the only one who voted against having the addition of being able to put old barns or those other stuff that have been mentioned. But open space is undeveloped, and that got, I'm going to say, I'll use the word railroaded at the Ag Commission meeting. And then when we got to this commission, I believe the vote was 6-3, I'm not sure. It was I agree. I mean, I admit that I don't think the facts were stated correctly. I think people kind of forgot where Joe Nichols came from on the completely open space. And I'm not blaming the commission. I don't think that they had gone through that.
Mr. Rice and then Ms. Salsa.
I think we're referring to what you're just saying right here. I think it's probably not misquoted, but interpretation of what Joe Nichols said is that, I guess my question is to Jane, is that what is your the problem with, not yours particularly, but you're mentioning that leaving those words in unimproved or undeveloped. What is,
No.
what's,
Want to know what
yeah.
I don't, I'm not saying I object. I'm saying we have voted on this. I'm leaving everything out. I'm just looking at the moment. We have voted on this. The Ag Commission voted on it. Let's take it to the next step where it would go to the ordinance writing and then it goes to a town meeting. Let's move this forward. I'm not talking about Joan. I'm not talking about wording. I'm not talking about anything. We voted on this. Let's move it forward to the next step and let it go to the ordinance committee. Then the town can vote on it so that we don't keep going back and forth and hashing this. This is what I'm saying. It needs to go to the ordinance committee then.
But
let's leave it as is.
So we got Mr. Williams, Mr. Krogel, and then I'd like to speak if I may.
Let's move it forward.
Okay, the biggest part of this is the unimproved, because all these properties have old stone, they got stone walls on them. They've been improved. So that word right there should be struck right out of here.
Then unbuilt in the original 1970s, pardon me, Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Ms. Sainosh.
Then the 1979 version that said unbuilt, then that, because it's a structure, nobody's denying the value in an old stone wall. Creatures dwell in old stone walls. Lots of, there is something to be said for that. And that's where the definition can happen in the ordinance. The problem with what was first approved is that there are structures listed for recreational, I believe, or agricultural use. I don't think that applies to open space. It wasn't the intention of open space. So recreational, how do you define that? It just shouldn't be.
So we have Mr. Krogel, Mr. Krogel.
I don't know what these other committees said. I was at the meetings. I know something was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. A lot of people spoke in favor of approving what was approved by other committees. That night was the first night that I saw this proposal. And people are saying, well, accept it because everyone worked on it. I feel we were railroaded onto accepting it that night because time was of the essence. We had to get things done. And everyone's with the understanding that, okay, if you approve this, we can always look at it afterwards and change things. As Ray is saying, accept this now and we can look at it later on if we need to. Well, when is it going to be determined whether we need to or not? Is now the time maybe to look at it before things do get approved or things are presented to the town as for unimproved property? The only thing I consider to be unimproved is if you put a structure. Okay, you have stone walls, that's just farming or nature, or whatever you want to call it, because stones are stones. But unimproved to me, my building was something that is a structure.
That's why we need definitions.
We do, so right now, we're looking at trying to adjust this, and we have no definitions. So I think we're shooting ourselves either way. We can be a right-handed holster or a left-handed holster, but our feet are being shot. And if we do nothing today, people are gonna say, well, you did nothing. If we do something today, you're gonna say, well, you acted without, so either way, we're gonna get screwed.
I would just say, and then I'll go to you, Ms. Salsi. This process requires the approval of several commissions and boards. And sometimes that requires compromise, right? If what we had originally adopted is not palatable to the other boards and commissions that have a say in it, then we need to find some common ground. That's what I would say. Ms. Thompson.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. How many people sit on the Ag Commission?
Right.
I'm sorry?
5.
5. And how many people are on this commission? And we've gone over this, and we have gone over it, and we have had countless citizens that have come forward. And what I'm saying, you want to, when it goes to the ordinance committee, they will do with the wording, there it will go on to the people to accept or not accept at a vote. We can sit here and hash back and forth, back and forth. Where does it stop? How many citizens need to come forward and voice their opinion? Let's move it to the next phase and then let the ordinance committee do it and then take it to the town. That's, in my opinion, the town is the one that needs to decide on this. We've made the decision and we voted on it. And I'm sorry that if you thought we didn't go over it enough or railroaded, we've had the paperwork. I, for one, have gone over this.
For one night.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we don't get the packets all the time.
Well, that's.
Yeah, that's another story.
Ms. Thompson,
Um,
could just
If I-
focus on,
If I may have a suggestion for you though.
I'm just gonna, if I may, and then Mr. Rice and then
And then-
Mr. Krogel. But my point is that then if we readopt the language that we have adopted,
Yeah,
the next step is an ordinance. The next step is the Board of
I
Selectmen,
know that.
who have indicated that the language as it's been adopted isn't palatable to
But
them.
my-
And so my question is, where do we find common ground to work together so that we get something for open space? I don't think there is anyone, I can't speak for all of the members of the commission here tonight. I don't think there is anyone here who doesn't value the adoption of the open space ordinance. And we need to make sure that it happens. And so I think we need to look at how it happens. I'm gonna go to Mr. Rice, then Mr. Krogel, and then back to
And then, Mr. Chair, if I could speak to after.
Mr. Rice.
I guess my question is, what is the purpose, once we approve or to send it to the selectmen? What is the selectmen supposed to do? Just rubber stamp what we said? Or they have the ability to make their suggestions on what this PA 90 is? Yes, we're sending it to them and we're saying.
That's what she did to us.
You can't do it.
That's what she did to us, Mr. Rice.
So Mr. Krogel, Ms. Salsi, Ms. St. Ange, and then
Yes,
Ms.
slap my
Lawrence.
hand.
Yes.
Okay, so if we accept this thing, it then goes back to the selectmen. Who writes the ordinance?
The ordinance committee.
The ordinance committee.
Who's the ordinance committee?
Al Landry, Joanne Hall, Celeste Guimont, and
Okay,
Dick
so
Trudeau.
not us and not you.
No,
Okay, so then whoever writes this ordinance then presents whatever they want to the town meeting. We have no say in the matter.
correct. But the
other than what's already
POCD
here.
defines the criteria.
It defines the
So
criteria, but
that's-
doesn't make it law.
Right.
It's just
In the term
a suggestion.
Ms. Salsi.
Amy, I do appreciate everything that you've done. I appreciate everything this commission has done, the Ag Commission has done. Let's move it to the next phase, please. Let's let this go to the ordinance committee and let them do this, and then it goes to the town. We will get PA 490, but we can go back and forth numerous times, but I'm asking to say, let's move it to the next phase. Let the ordinance committee sit down with this. Let's give it to them. The writing will have to be done. It's going to have to go there anyway. So let's do it now and then take it to the town meeting so that the people can vote on this. If they change things, fine. It's going to go to a town meeting and the people can speak. This way, it literally is off our plates because we've all worked on it. We are going to end up going back and forth. Let's put it to the next phase and
So-
let it go to the
So our
ordinance committee.
suggestions, and let the ordinance committee deal with it.
My suggestion is that we've taken this to committees. 15 people have worked on this. And we need to be able to move it forward. 15 people versus 3 people, and that's not, I'm not saying you didn't work on it, Amy. That's not what I'm saying. I know you
No
did.
offense taken. I don't offend
But I'm
easily.
saying the
Then I
15,
think you
Sorry,
have to
go
include the 3, because that 15, it
Yeah.
should be a total of 18.
okay,
Thank you.
okay, Mr. Rice, 18 people have worked on this. Let's move it to the next phase.
Ms. St. Ange and
I-
then Ms. Orsolak.
You sure? Because Ms. Orlovak could go first.
ahead.
Okay.
But she hasn't been seated. Is she allowed to
She
speak?
can speak as a commissioner, but she can't vote.
Okay,
As an alternate.
okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I think where you brought up finding common ground, it was said to me over and over again during the selectmen meetings that PA 490 should stay. We should honor 1979. Pull out completely unimproved, make it unbuilt and undeveloped. Keep it as simple as it was in 1979. That's honoring that language. It's honoring what was presented back then. It seems like completely seems to be a disdain. You know, that would be a compromise. It keeps it simple. And then it goes to the ordinance committee to define what unbuilt and undeveloped is.
So why can't we do this to go and do?
Because there's structures listed in that, and that's not part of open space.
Thank you. Ms. Orrs?
Okay, so I sit on the Ag Commission. I have not gone through PA 490, but I have gone through another program called Farmland Preservation, which is through the Department of Agriculture. And that you can improve land before you develop it. I mean, before you go through before you go through farmland preservation. So if you needed to clear some trees out, you know, if they're if the moths went through a couple years ago and you wanted to clean it up before you went through farmland preservation, you could. And then after that, you cannot touch that land going undeveloped or, you know, unimproved. So I don't know if I'm biting the bullet here, but through farmland preservation, through the Department of Ag, what I am allowed to do on my preserved farm property is what they have on their website. Is each PDR deed is unique, but the owner of the preserved farm must not undertake activities that diminish the land or the soil for agriculture use. In general, a PDR owner may conduct agriculture activities with the approval of the Department of Ag, construct buildings such as barns, ponds for irrigation, roadside stands for sale of agriculture products, processing facilities, gravel farm roads, and sometimes residence for persons incidental to the farm. Extract, another bullet point, extract gravel for the use on the farm with limitations. Perform farmland restoration, usually in accordance with the NRCS Development Conservation Plan. Please reach out to the Department of Ag for any questions related to specific restrictions and specific easement deeds. If in doubt, ask. So what I guess I'm saying is up until the point that they go through PA 490, why can't they improve or do whatever they need to do? And then once they go through PA 490, then they can't build or extract any gravel, or does that make sense?
So what you're saying.
I know, I'm just reading off
I
what.
understand. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Ms. Orrs.
Okay, I've got one question.
Ms. Halsey?
Okay, so tonight, what we do, it goes back to the Board of Selectmen, correct?
Only if you change it again.
Well, okay, wait a minute.
So if you approve what they sent down, there's no reason for it to go back to them because they are sending back to you what you sent up to them. If you approve exactly what they sent to
I've
you,
got that.
it doesn't
I've
have to
got-
go back.
yes, I've got that. In other words, do as I say and you'll be all set. We'll be done with it. Because basically that's what's happening. If we go along with what the selectmen have said versus what we voted on and the Ag Commission voted on, it's a done deal. But if we don't agree with what the selectmen want, it goes back and forth again. That's why I say, take it to the next phase, let it go to the ordinance committee, let it be brought forward to a town meeting. Let's end it now, the yo-yo game. Amy, you had 15 people that have worked on this and countless public citizens, the taxpayers that have said, leave it this way. Let's move it forward to the ordinance committee and then have it go to town meeting. That is the simplest solution for this. Otherwise, we're gonna go back and forth because you don't like what we've done, we don't like, or I don't, I'm not speaking for the board. It's gonna go back and forth. Let's move it to the next phase so
So-
that it moves forward.
I'm not trying to be contrary, but those aren't the only two options, right? The only two options you've proposed are we reject what the Board of Selectmen does and either they accept what we've done or they send it back to
Or
us,
we move it to the ordinance
or
committee.
we accept what they've done. There is an option that involves finding a solution that is amenable to both
Oh, we
this
haven't
commission
gotten
and
there
that board.
yet,
Because,
Chairman. It's not
because
gonna
Ms.
happen.
Salsi, we haven't tried to. We've spent 20 minutes fighting about the process.
Well, we've also spent time on this when we did pass this. The Ag Commission has spent time on it.
I don't
Why-
care about the Ag Commission. I compare what's in
Okay,
front of
but
us
we,
right
all right,
now.
we passed this, we voted on it. Move it to the next phase. Let the ordinance committee take care of it and bring it forward to the townspeople, because ultimately it is up to the townspeople to make.
So again, I'm not
choice.
trying to be contrary, Ms. Salsi, but you're proposing that we do exactly the thing to the Board of Selectmen that you are taking umbrage that they are doing with us.
No, we've already voted on this. I take offense.
And so they,
Three
so they
people
have.
Said, we don't like what you
Ms.
did.
Salsi, that's what the Board of Selectmen was elected to do.
What are we here for? We're supposed to be here for the townspeople and the way the people have spoken. That's what I'm saying. The townspeople have come out and spoken on this. How
Mr.
many people do you have come forward and say, this is what we want? But then it keeps getting ignored.
How many-
And I don't want to ignore what the taxpayers
Thank you.
say.
Mr. Rice and then Mr. Krogel.
We go all night long on this. That's why I say, take it to the next phase.
Mr. Rice and then
When
Mr.
we
Krogel.
voted on it, we voted to send it to the selectmen, right? And the selectmen do whatever they have to do. It comes back to us and we approve it. And this is going into the P O C D. It's not going anywhere else.
Well,
In a
according,
sense.
it's going to the selectman's office again.
Not if we approve.
Oh, if we approve it the way they're telling us to prove it, we've
The way-
already voted
The
on it.
way it's on here.
Don't like your vote, do it again. That's what we're being told, and that's why I take offense. I don't like what you do,
You have the
revote.
option of saying no.
In other words, revote, I don't like what you did.
Nobody's even asked.
Mr.
what the
Krogel,
benefit is to
Mr.
changing the
Krogel.
wording. Has anyone thought
Mr.
about that?
Krogel.
All right. At the last meeting, people spoke and said, accept this, accept this, accept this, without any discussion at all. Alvin says we shouldn't accept this because there's issues. I agreed with him, but I voted for it anyways. But we did not have a chance to discuss it thoroughly like we should have. And now, if we send it back to the selectmen again, how many people are you meeting, Amy? For
I would have to look back. How many people
approximately,
were at my last meeting?
yeah, 10, 15.
I will say a good majority of the people that spoke were open space landowners, period.
Right, so it is definitely a discussion that needs to be had. If we don't approve what the selectmen wanted, it's gonna go back to them anyways, and you're going to have this committee.
So in other words, we do what I tell you
No,
to do.
no, no,
That's
that's
what's
not
being
it at
done,
all.
Mr.
No,
Vogel.
no,
Do what
that's
I
not
tell
it.
you and what I want.
No, because if we, even if we accept what we want, okay, or what was voted on last time, the selectmen have a choice of what they can do with it, because they're gonna be part of the ad hoc committee anyways.
Yeah, 10 people versus 3 people.
Doesn't matter how many
Sorry,
people, they are a
sorry.
committee. You can have
Sorry.
15 people, you can
So
have
are
3
we,
people.
and we
They
ain't
are,
being
they are
told.
a committee. They are elected officials that have a say in the matter.
So are we,
Yes, we are,
and we voted.
and we did, and so
And
did
now She
they.
doesn't like what we did.
Doesn't
so
matter if
now
they
we
like
have
what
to
we
do
did
it
or not. It-
Over again.
This
Let
is
it go to
not-
the
this
town
is not-
people.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Okay, so who's going to make,
The ordinance committee.
right, so
Let it
where's
go
the
there
ordinance,
now.
where is the
Why didn't
ordinance?
she let it go to
I
the
question,
ordinance
where's this
Because that's not
ordinance
the
committee
process.
going to get the ideas from?
I'm gonna,
They're going to get them
Mr.
from us,
Krogel,
and they're gonna get them from her, or from
Mr.
the selectmen.
I'm going. to
Mr.
let
Santos,
people
Ms.
watch.
Ms. Salsi, Mr. Santos, and then Mr. Williams. I think you were looking to be recognized.
I was just gonna say, I did not attend those meetings, and maybe I'm thankful I missed those meetings. But in order to move this along here, for me, I was going to abstain from voting anyway, because I clearly am missing some data here from the ag and previous votes that Jane has brought up. But is there a time constraint to this? Can we have like one encompassing document that had what the ag had, our previous planning and zoning votes, and then review this all together at the next meeting?
I'm gonna
Just kind of move this along
here.
here.
There was a bit of a time constraint that we were.
Yes, in that if the PA 490 applications are going to be available this year, it has to be resolved essentially in time for the assessor to accommodate for that. So we had said the end of the fiscal year as a target date. We probably have about a month's wiggle room in there. Realistically, I certainly would not delay it much beyond that. And the answer to your second question is, Brian, I can send you every iteration of this that has been written. I have them all.
Yeah, so even if we actually did delayed it a month, we talked about it, we still have to go back to the selectmen if it was evaluated, so we probably run out of time.
If any changes are made tonight, it has to go back to the Board of Selectmen.
So why did we vote on it at all at the selectmen? of the
Because Ms.
town?
Salsi,
is
the
the
process
and
of
how it
amending the
works.
plan of conservation and
No, I
development.
get that. I'm asking you, why did we even bother to vote if the selectman's office is going to say, I don't like what you did, do it over again?
Ms. Salsi,
So
when
what's the
different
purpose of sending
bodies,
it to them
when
then?
different bodies
They
have,
don't have an input.
Mr. Rice, when different bodies have to craft something together, you understand this. It's what happens when the House and the Senate have different versions of a
So
bill.
why aren't you saying that to the selectman's office where they brought it back to us? Why didn't they accept it? We voted on it. Why didn't they accept it?
Well, because I voted against it in the beginning, because I thought,
What'd you say?
because I voted against it in the beginning. I thought there should have been conditions in the beginning, and I knew that we were going to run into problems with the Board of Selectmen. And
Because it's not what they want.
because in my opinion, it,
If I may, Mr.
apparently I'm
Chairman.
not allowed to have those, Ms.
Sorry,
Salsi.
I'm apologize for being rude to you. I apologize.
In my opinion,
Unacceptable.
I appreciate your apology. In my opinion, it's what's best for the town. I,
If
Ms.
I may,
Ms.
Mr.
Penn.
Chairman, just to give a little context, I am aware that the first selectman had communicated with the town attorney and with specialists in assessment and land use. It was also their recommendation to remove anything that referred to structures, development, or improvement. I will go on the record as saying in my first iteration of this, tried to write something that was very broadly friendly towards agricultural structures. But having heard the input from the town attorney, from Attorney Collins, who also provided the memo on the process that we read in at one of the Agriculture Commission meetings, I found that logic compelling. So there is some of the context as to why the changes were made. And because we are staff, we can discuss that in places that are not public forum, but I am sharing that with you because that is part of the context.
Thank you. Mr. Blackburn.
All right, I move that we.
So we actually have, I'm sorry, we actually have a motion on the table.
I'm sorry.
The motion on the table is to reapprove the language as it was originally adopted by this commission.
Mr. Chairman, do you need me to read that language for clarity?
Please.
All right, let me call it up. Bear with me, folks.
Vote yes on that. Yeah.
Yes, if we vote yes, you know, if we readopt the language as we adopted it, it will be sent back to the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Poplawski.
So the proposed language change, how does it affect those who are already in what is existing PA 490? What does that do to those households with this proposed? Does it, because we have so many existing in PA 490 right now under the old 79 PA 490.
Again, I reiterate, the POCD is the guidance document. The ordinance is what's going to define.
Okay.
But the POCD defines the criteria that will be used to build the ordinance. So, how does it affect the owners? I believe that if you currently have open space and you meet the criteria and you meet the future definitions, that you will still stay in open space if you meet the criteria, if you meet the ordinance. We don't have an ordinance yet. Who do you think, who are you specifically referring to, Mr. Poplawski?
I attend.
Is someone with a field that
No,
is
I
open
attended
space?
The Ag Commission
Mhm.
meetings,
Right?
these meetings, and there was a lot of data that was proposed and showed what the changes, how that would affect the people who are already.
Are we talking about the raceway, Thompson Raceway? Because they were in open space. Did
No, no,
everybody
no.
know that? Okay,
No,
Okay.
it was a general.
they were in open space.
They have 400 acres in open space.
I'm not, yeah, I'm not. I'm
Okay,
just-
Order,
No way.
order,
According,
please.
according to the assessor, I was told,
Mr. Williams?
including the golf course.
It has, my question has
Okay.
nothing to do with commercial profit.
Okay.
It's just it's a general question.
If you were currently qualify for open space based on the 1979 definition, and if we continue to adopt the 1979 definition, why would you not qualify for it? Why would someone who's in that based on the 1979 definition not qualify?
The reason I ask is because if someone,
Because it wasn't administered in the past, but
yes,
it wasn't properly
Correct.
administered, right?
so if a property changed hands that was in previous open space, right now it's tied up, right?
I would say if someone has a foundation or a septic system or some type of utility under that unimproved or unbuilt or undeveloped, if that's on their open space, that part of the parcel would not qualify. If it is land with a stone wall, again, the definitions, that's where we're going to hit the definitions, things like basic stone walls, not mortar and concrete, but the old rustic stone walls, that's not going to be considered something that's built. And that's where the definitions come in, is in the ordinance. But to leave it loose so that any recreational facility, including a golf course, should be included as open space is just not the original intention based on Connecticut Farm Bureau.
Mr. Williams?
Well, on some of these definitions, if the property changes hands, once it's rewritten, you might have it in open space and I buy that from you. It might not be qualify for open space with these other words in here.
It's the 1979 words. I don't understand.
I'm talking when we start changing this stuff, when it goes to the ordinance and the ordinance, the words get changed again, once the ordinances come up.
The ordinance just is meant to define, to give definitions for unimproved, or if you use unbuilt, or if you use undeveloped. The ordinance will define what is unbuilt, what is undeveloped.
Are you ready with and it's up
Yeah.
behind us as well.
And actually, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to suggest I read one more piece, which is the actual minutes from 1979. They're brief.
Okay, so if we could all listen to the planner.
Okay, so the meeting minutes from the June 18th, 1979 meeting of the Thompson Planning Commission, which is before it was planning and zoning, are as follows. Discussion of lot size and minimum area for open space when less than 25 acres are involved. In order to prevent forced sale of land, the commission adopts as part of their plan of development for the town, a statement which declares those tracts in excess of a given acreage and unbuilt on or undeveloped to be critical to the preservation of the environment in the town. This action will enable those landowners who are not eligible for
Can you
either the
have
farm
essentially-
or forest use assessment to be eligible for a lower assessment on their land. Motion made by Bruce Seeger, seconded by Donald Hayes to set the minimum area for open space in the town of Thompson at 3 acres. Motion carried. That is the full content of the 1979 minutes. The language that was passed up from the Agriculture Commission and subsequently passed from this commission to the Board of Selectmen is as follows, and it's just the bullet points because this is the only part that's ever been under dispute. Land in all zoning districts of Thompson is eligible for consideration. The minimum area eligible for classification as open space shall be 3 acres of vacant or undeveloped land as described below. In the town of Thompson, the following land types shall be eligible for the open space classification. Any acreage within a parcel which does not contain a residential dwelling or a commercial building. In cases where a parcel includes portions which contain a residential dwelling or commercial building, the 3-acre minimum shall be land in excess of any portion containing such a structure. That portion shall be calculated at a minimum as the area of a single building lot within the given zoning district. In cases where the calculated area of the specified building or buildings exceed that of a single building lot, the area excluded from the open space designation shall not exceed the actual area occupied by the building or buildings. Open space shall not include residential dwellings or commercial buildings. Land containing other structures such as outbuildings or those supporting recreational or agricultural use shall be included in open space. Land set aside under the open space requirements for a subdivision or a conservation subdivision shall not be eligible for enrollment in PA 490. Such land is to be preserved permanently as open space as described in the subdivision regulations of the town of Thompson. That would be the language which under Ms. Salsi's motion, you would be voting to approve under your next vote.
Any further discussion? Mr. Krogel.
So the only difference I'm seeing between what the selectmen are proposing, selectmen's and our current so-called regulation proposal is the word completely unimproved and undeveloped land.
Well, not entirely.
But that's the main sticking point.
Well,
And we don't have a definition for unimproved or undeveloped land.
they include structures on in this. That is, that's what's sticking in my car, is the
Recreational and agricultural facilities.
right.
Okay, but that all has to go to definition. I mean, recreational, someone said you wouldn't be able to ride a bike. I consider the bike to be recreation.
But it's not a structure.
It's not a structure, but an outhouse is.
It's recreation.
And anything that has a house on it would not be considered open space. And if you have more than enough land, everything other than your housing area could be considered open space. I think we need more work, but if people say time is of the essence,
Well, we have at least.
we're just good. We do have until June, so
Is there?
The definitions would not be included as a part of the POCD. That would be a part of the ordinance writing. So this is a different step. It's a
So-
different
So
step.
like Brian says, if we have another month, let's look at it all together and decide next month.
Okay, the motion is to approve the language that was adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I will withdraw that motion. If we want to go at what Brian says and get more time, if you want more time, I'll withdraw that motion, take it off the table.
And the motion has been withdrawn. Is there another motion?
I'll just make the motion that we continue this next month with more information in front of us.
Motion has been made to table this till next month's meeting with collection of more information.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Ms. Salsi, made by Mr. Krogel, seconded by Ms. Salsi. Any discussion on the motion?
May I, Mr. Chairman, just ask a question? What that information that you would be looking for might be, since I'll be the one who will have to compile it?
I,
Whatever Brian wants.
I think it would be, I think it would again be
That's
the,
what Brian asked for.
I think it would again be the 1979 minutes. Any data that was presented to the Agricultural Commission. The language that we've received from either state or other experts that we've consulted with. And then the languages of the different
Mr.
proposals.
Chairman,
The minutes
Mr.
of- the
Chairman.
Minutes of the Ag Commission.
Yeah.
For their meeting.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, and one thing that we get this within a timely manner, not 3 days before that meeting. This has to come out so that we've got it at least 3 weeks before the meeting, so that we all can sit down and really look at this stuff.
I
Thank you,
can
Ms. Thompson.
guarantee that I will email this to you before the end of the week.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Williams?
I hate to make another one of these, but I think we should have, even if it's on Zoom, when, in the next,
Yeah.
you know,
Zoom
the
meeting.
next week or so, or 2 weeks, whatever, that we can all look at this with the information instead of just waiting, you know, get something in the mail and come in here and go through all this all over again.
Can we do another subcommittee after we've all gone through this and sit down and have a roundtable discussion before the next meeting?
You could call a special meeting to do so.
That's what
That's what I'm making a motion that we call a special meeting after we have gotten this work, this paperwork, and that we have all agreed that we've looked at it and hold a special meeting.
So just a point of order, we do have a motion made and seconded on the table. Ms. Langlois.
So if we agree with this, to postpone it, to sit down, to talk about it, to have a special meeting, to change it or accept it, then it still has to go that way. So it doesn't really, so if we change and to A and they don't like it or we don't like it, then we're still back at the same drawing board for the same thing.
Well, the thing.
But at least we have the people that
Have said that they
didn't sit in on
understand.
some of the other meetings to find out.
Yeah.
Everybody has a little bit more chance to look at it instead of just here at this meeting and the last meeting.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And Charlene, the truth is, maybe we'll agree. Maybe it'll be like, yeah, collaboration, isn't that where the best ideas come from, collaborative efforts? But what I did want to say for the commission is take the time and watch the Ag Commission meeting. I think that was from February. I've watched it like 3 times. It's really informative. So.
Thank you.
Jane, I know you're new. Probably should address you as Ms. Salsa. I know you're new, and if you're gonna call a special meeting, you need to let me know to set that meeting up, and I need to do it in a time frame that I can post it with the town clerk, and so it's a legal.
Yeah, that's why I asked, that's why I asked the chairman.
So the motion has been made to table this discussion.
PA 490.
The 490 discussion, PA 490 discussion. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hill,
before we move on, I mean, we do have a motion that was seconded on by Ms. Salsi. And if she should make a motion tonight or say and make a statement that she's withdrawing her first motion.
she did withdraw that motion, Mr. Hill.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. So any further discussion on the motion to table? Hearing none, a yes will table, a no will continue the conversation. Mr. Blackburn.
Randy Blackburn, yes.
Sally Langlois, yes.
All right, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Dave Bosky, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, no.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. The item is tabled. I will set a special meeting to discuss this, if there's no objection.
Sounds good.
Okay, item 12B, 4 Watson Road, Ms. Dunn.
For personal reasons, no one's here to speak again.
Thank you. We'll move on. Item 13, new business. Preliminary discussion, Paul Townsend of proposed subdivision and 55 and older association. Good evening. If you could just stand at the microphone, please, for the.
Thank you very much. That was an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
My name is Paul Townsend. My company's Montech Homes. You're going to hear about a plan that we're just developing now, just for your information. And we're not applying for anything tonight. We just want you to see this and see what we're thinking. I will say I'm from the town of Hull, which is a coastal town south of Boston. It's a peninsula. The only undeveloped, if you want undeveloped 3 acres of land, it's Cape Cod Bay. We have nothing close to that. But anyway, the world's different everywhere. We are, move this up. We're working with J&D Engineering. Janet is here and she will talk to this plan. We're working with Rachel Johnston and her team, her real estate and associates. They've given me a lot of feedback to understand the community. I've been around town. We are focused on the acreage of 22 acres up behind you here, up on the hill, up above the post office, that whole land up top, 22, 23, 22 and a half acres. And we are looking at plans that would focus on first home buyers on half of that parcel, approximately 25, 26 homes. And the other part of the other section of that parcel would be 55 and older homes. Divided pretty much evenly to happen in whatever order our research dictates it should happen. And again, there's a lot of work for us to do to go forward to get to an application to you folks and to understand the full complexity of the project. So to start with, we'll have Janet explain the layout. I know she has some questions and clarifications maybe to make. So Janet.
Thanks. Janet Blanchett, J&D Civil Engineers. I remember earlier this evening, Brian mentioned that on complex applications, it's good to come and see the commission. And this will be a relatively large and complex application. So that's why we are here this evening to get your feedback, ask for some clarification on the regulations, and just to, this is your town. This is something that's a large project that's being contemplated. So this is, like I said, the 22 acres up behind, down in the road here. This is the post office, there's the bank, and the cemetery. So there's a wetland that kind of bisects the property. So the hope is that there might be a subdivision with first-time home buyers. Now this zone is the downtown middle rehabilitation district. So the actual lot sizes could be as little as 4,500 square feet, but that's not practical for individual family homes. These are more like 10,000 square feet or quarter-acre lots, which is really very similar to North Grosvenor. If you think of like Floral Ave, Home Street, Central and Market Street, Riverside Drive, this is exactly fitting with the character and the size of the lot. And then the other side of the wetland is contemplating potentially an association. They would still be individual homes, but perhaps an association style ownership, because 55 and older people sometimes don't, want to be snowbirds and not be here in the winter. They maybe want somebody to take care and plow out their roads or mow their lawns. So these are a little bit smaller. I think they might be an average of 8,000 square feet. This is very conceptual at this point, just pretty much minimal engineering, just working a little bit with the wetlands, the lay of the land. This is one of the properties that has public water and sewer, which we don't have that much of in Thompson. So this is a great example of like an infill development. Paul can tell you more about what he wants to construct, but generally, these are, all the houses have garages, 1,500 to 1,800 square feet. Homes, and obviously the connection to the school is huge. This would be a walkable community. People could walk to school, they could walk to the library, they could walk to Riverside Park. So I know there'll be a public hearing on this later on. It's a late.
Yes, in terms of what Janet was saying, we have been talking a lot about connecting, how we connect a development like this to the community. And that we want pathways down to the street and towards the river. We want people to access the community support services that are in this area, the bank, and town hall, right down the street, just off the chart. So there are ways to intercommunicate both here. Janet has drawn an direct access to the schools, right near the ballpark, right directly from this property. We know that's going to make it a lively community, capital C, community involvement. Janet has created, if you want, Rachel? Just some ideas. These are, in some of these cases, these are homes that were built and are typical of what we would look for in both sections of it.
I'm Rachel Johnston. I'm the broker with Johnston and Associates Real Estate here in town. When Mr. and Mrs. Townsend reached out to me several months ago, we had a very lengthy discussion. It was very important to them that in working with the potential for this subdivision, that what they were looking to do would be what the town needs and also what would fit in that location. So we spoke quite a bit about it. I had my opinions of it. We brought it to our entire staff, and we all unanimously realize and feel that we have two big needs in this town. Number one, we have a need for the over 55 community. As you know, the only over 55 communities we have, besides the apartment complexes, Gladys Green there, is the Quinnebog Park and Sunshine Terrace in Quinnebog and in Fabian. Those are mobile home parks. And though there's a big demand for those, and quite frankly, in our office, we have a waiting list for people who want to get into the Quinnebog Park, but mobile home living is not for everybody. So we proposed to Mr. Townsend that we thought his subdivision probably should include an over 55 community. In addition to that, we feel that there is a great need in town for reasonably priced homes for first-time home buyers. We think it's really important that we keep young people in this town. And with pricing that has gone excessive right now, and I'm sure you're all aware of the market conditions right now, we have discussed pricing and trying to make this affordable for that population as well. I've reviewed the many floor plans and many options that Mr. Townsend's company proposes. And I feel, as our staff does, that they would fit in this area. Most of the homes, and you'll see the proposed floor plans, and I think they're in your package as well. You'll see that the homes for the section 1 are in the area of about 1,700 square feet, which is a decent size home, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Many of them have open floor plans. Many of them have walk-in closets and primary, sorry, I can't use the word master anymore, but primary bedrooms and primary bathrooms. In the over 55 section, you'd be looking at 2-bedroom houses, slightly smaller, maybe in the area of 1,400 to 1,500 square feet. Getting back to the comment I made about, the only over 55s that we have here is the Quinnebog Park and Sunshine Terrace. We in our office have experienced selling homes for people in this community, in the Thompson community, that are over 55 that have not had their needs met in wanting to go to single level living, and have gone to surrounding communities where there are over 55 communities such as Killingly and Plainfield, both of which have those communities. I think that the plans that are being proposed are workable. On a very personal level, if those of you that have been around for a while will probably remember Marcel and Gloria Beauregard. They owned the furniture store on Main Street in North Grovenondale. When Marcel and Gloria sold the store and decided to downsize, they were looking for single level living. They were looking for a community that would work for them as seniors. They went to Putnam because we didn't have what they wanted. These are people that probably would have stayed here the rest of their lives. And so I think to accommodate the young people as well as our over 55 seniors, this project is a good place to be going. So, Paul?
I guess I'd like to ask a couple items relating to the zoning and or subdivision regulations, just to basically for clarification. So this is our understanding with the current, I mean, I know the subdivision regulations are being rewritten. Nobody can predict the future, so we're working with what exists today. So the concept here is that the definition of what's a cul-de-sac is extremely important. Multi-family is also part of their single house. So the understanding is that this would be considered a loop road. Off of the loop road would be a cul-de-sac. So your cul-de-sac definitions have no more than 12 proposed lots or 1,000 feet in length. So my question to you, because I've been coming to this commission for 30 years, and so I know that the definition has been, is this the cul-de-sac? Or from this last intersection coming in, is it a cul-de-sac? Now, that is only relevant if this is subdivided into individual lots. If it's developed as an association, then this could conceivably be one lot. And so subdivision regulations don't apply, and that the answer to that question would be irrelevant. But as a designer, I'd like to know what the options are.
Does the road continues to another road?
This property over here is the Banjo property that goes out to Rawson Avenue. Mr. Townsend and his company have no purchase and sales agreement, no agreement with this property owner to continue on. But one has to wonder in the future what might happen. And so you try to think about that and have a smart design that accommodates the future.
I think, and someone can correct me if they think differently, I think that changes the answer to the question. Right? I think if that does continue on to another road, then just that small piece you have with the 12 lots would be the cul-de-sac. But if there's no outlet to that, then I think the whole thing becomes the cul-de-sac.
And that's a dead end.
It's a dead end.
So, which that, probably will obviously affect the way the project is presented, and it kind of fits with what they have in mind, but we just wanted to know what the options are, and it is interesting moving forward. If somebody did want to make a subdivision, if the regulations stay the same when you adopt your new subdivision regulations, then.
Go ahead, Mr. Williams.
So I got some questions about that property. Wasn't that years ago a town dump or a dump? Was that, has it been tested on the soil and all of that over there?
There will have to be, it was mill property and there's a debris area up here in the back where.
I thought that was a stone years ago.
I thought it was too.
There was a phase one environmental study done for a previous owner and it didn't indicate.
How
So I
long
know,
ago was that?
Pete Banjo wanted to develop that years ago and
And
they
couldn't.
I want to say
couldn't do it.
7 years ago, potentially, a phase one environmental study.
Are those gonna be slab houses or are they gonna have basements?
They will be both. There'll be crawl space and there'll be basements. That'll be dictated by the market, the pricing that we want to hit.
What is the pricing range that you're looking at
We want to be under $300,000,
for the 55 and over,
everything.
for everything?
That's the goal. Another comment on the marketing side is, we were talking at length about phasing and what should happen first up here and second. And Rachel kept doing her marketing research with her staff and kept looking at it and coming back to me and basically said, it's all one phase. She can see them over 55s coming sooner. The first home buyers coming right next to it. And so that's why we're calling it sections, not phases. I haven't a clue how it's going to start, but she's very excited about both sections. And yes, how we're dealing with these two sections, really they're sections because it's wetlands in the middle and that helped divide it. And then once we learn more about your community and more about your needs, it was pretty clear that these two components would fit and work. Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Has that been through wetlands?
Excuse me?
Has wetlands looked at that property yet?
No, well, back when, I don't know if you got involved, Janet, with wetlands back when you did the original work with the solar panel and whatever, or not.
Because of the microphone, I'll come over and talk into the microphone. No, this is a very preliminary phase. It will have to go to the Wetlands Commission. It will have to go to the Department of Transportation, WPCA, Connecticut Water. So there's a lot of design, a lot of moving parts. It's a complex project. So and there was a solar field project approved on this site that was only on this half of the site, so a wetland crossing wasn't proposed in that project.
Any other questions? Great. You've been at it a long time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry you had to wait so long to get it there.
Yeah.
Item 14, citizens' comments. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I will make a motion to, I'm sorry, amend the agenda to add 13B under new business for 1017 Riverside Drive. Is there a second to the motion to amend the agenda? Seconded by Ms. Langlois. Just do a voice vote. All those in favor of amending the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
If you just real quickly, 1017 Riverside Drive is where the men's clinic used to be, and it's called Raptors now. And they are working out an estrangement with the town of Thompson because their land only goes so far, and they want to have a 100-pound fence outside. And so she knows she has to apply for a different license in the state of Connecticut for that. And because it's separate from her original application, which just says the address 1017. So she can't serve it beyond 1017. So I checked the regulations, and our regulations state in order for her to have the outdoor entertainment, food and beverage service established, including outdoor seating. She needs a zoning permit with site plan review by the commission. So I just want to let you know that.
Great, thank you, Cindy.
Yes, they bring it.
Item 14, citizens' comments.
The same person I was earlier. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In looking at and listening to the discussion regarding open space, And I was also had listened to in detail the Ag Commission's comment. There's one point that I think it's important to, that was perhaps overlooked, and it's easily overlooked. But I think it's a critical point, is the whole spirit and discussion around the Ag Commission and partly in the Planning and Zoning Commission, although the tenor changed, is that the intent was to memorialize what has been done over the last 40 years, from 1979 through forward, to memorialize it, to codify it as what was being done. However, when you look at the written document versus what was being done, that's the disconnect. And that's why it's important to quantify the economic impact on those individuals that currently are in open space, which is somehow just skipped. It's that number disappeared. It's going into, it just dropped out. So it's important. What was written is not refutable. What was done and what was the social contract between this town and the people of this town is something that you cannot overlook, and that's been skipped. So memorialize what has been done, which you'll find that each tax assessors probably come up with a different interpretation. So you have a large range of possibilities. Memorialize that. And then for selectmen and others' comments, then change it. But don't unilaterally do one at the same, say, well, this is what they said, this is what we think it should be, and change it. And that's the disconnect here, all right? It just skipped. You skipped over it. And I think it's important to keep an eye on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Go ahead, you, and then Ms. Clark, and then Mr. Brown.
I'm ready for bed. I don't know about you guys. Donna Austin, 1075 Thompson Road. I want to speak about the minutes of the meeting that you wanted to put in Mr. Rice. If you were just quoting the attorney, I would like you to accept my humble apology. If that's what you were quoting, I'm a big enough person to say I'm sorry to you. And that's what I wanted to say to Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Ms. Austin.
Thank you.
Ms. Clark.
Valerie Clark, 105 Elm Road. I want to say that I agree with what Mr. O'Neill said, because he put it well. That was the disconnect, because the charge from the citizens, and also what John Nichols did say, is to codify what had been done for the last 40 years. And that was the work that the Ag Commission undertook, was to identify, talk to the citizens, and get their input on what had been done with open space over the last 40 years. We had input from the assessor who had previously administered the program, who had worked with prior assessors, who also validated that the wording that had been put forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission reflected what had been administered since 1979. And I wanted to make sure that when you have your special meeting, this is the guide book. I recommend highly that you each get a copy of it. There is on page 17, is the open space classification page. I want to point out a couple of things. On that page, definition. The term open space land means any area of land, including forest land, land designated as a wetland under section 22A-30, and not excluding farmland, the preservation or restriction of the use of which would, A, maintain and enhance the conservation of natural or scenic resources. Note that it also says or scenic. Protect natural streams or water supply. Promote conservation of soils, wetlands, beaches, or tidal marshes. D, enhance the value to the public of abutting or neighboring parks, forests, wildlife preserves, nature reservations, or sanctuaries or other open spaces. E, enhance public recreation opportunities. F, preserve historic sites. G, promote orderly urban or suburban development. I also wanted to say tonight that y'all stopped listening when St. Ange presented. Ms. St. Ange explained the compromise wording that she felt the selectmen would accept. And that compromise wording was to change the wording "and completely unimproved" to "or unbuilt." That was all I heard her ask. So please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Mr. O'Brien and then Mr. Cotton.
Wayne O'Brien, 108 Fabian Road. Words matter. They really do. If you change words, you change meanings. I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, what you guys are faced with, the selectmen's pushing you one way, the people want you to do what they've had. All they're asking for is what they already have. They're not asking for anything less. I hear the second, well, we're losing almost $1 million. They never had it. Oh, by the way, if all the open space was gone, what would Thompson look like? Think about it. Seriously. I mean, you've got to seriously think about, what's going on here. I mean, do we really need to do what they're asking? Or do you need to do what the townspeople are asking you to do? Is just keep them whole. And excuse me, I was the one that pointed to you at the meeting. And I did it just to point out that you were the one that had said that exact statement. That's all I did. I want to make that very clear. That statement was yours. And you are right. I had the Board of Ed tell me the time when they were deciding to do away with the busing. Oh, the lawyer says, none of you get to speak, period. Just sit there. No offense, we pay for the lawyer. Yeah, it's scary. We pay for the lawyer to be told we don't have a right. That's a scary thing. When did that happen? So you guys are hiding behind lawyers and everything else, and FOI. Oh, the minutes of the meeting, can you tell me if those are the exact minutes of the meeting or were they edited? When did we start editing the minutes of the meeting? Because they have been being edited lately. That's a scary thought. You said those were the exact words, but you can't say it. That's what's been written down. That's all. And you guys, guess what? Minutes of the meeting, things were omitted. So you can't take that for face value. You understand what I'm saying? When you're actually not going, why are we spending thousands of dollars to have a secretary? Just to have, oh, there was a conversation and this is the decision. We don't need a secretary then. Do we? If that's what you want to do, you got to be real with us. Give us the minutes. Let us know what you're saying, what you're thinking. So we know what you're saying, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. If all we have is, well, there was a conversation and this is their decision. Well, the state says you can get away with that. Well, shame on the state. I think you guys can be better than that. And you should be better than that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Clark.
Because words do matter, I have something I want to say before what I want to say. There is no Thompson Raceway. There's a Thompson Speedway. The racetrack is a speedway, not the raceway. The raceway closed in the 1960s. It put this town on the map. It's owned by my wife. It's an emotional issue. Please, when you refer to the racetrack, use the correct term. It's the Thompson Speedway, not the raceway.
I appreciate if you will do that in the future. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say. The Declaration of Independence states, governments are instituted among men, deriving for their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government. On Wednesday night, there's a town meeting scheduled to discuss and vote on the abolishment of the Planning and Zoning Commission and to reinstate a new commission with the will of the voters. The declaration also states, governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shewn that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. No person or commission can please everyone. No matter what side a person is on in an issue, half the population is against them. This makes serving the public a daunting challenge. Planning and zoning is probably the most contentious commission in any town. It will virtually always upset more people than it pleases. But generally, in the big picture, most people can see the reasons for the decisions the commissions put forth. This has not been the case in the past 2 years. Many new zoning ordinances have been put into place under the cover of COVID and with very little, if any, input from the public. And many of these changes make little sense and have no explanations as to their reasons. Certainly the chicken ordinance is among them. I have attended at least 3 planning and zoning meetings where the issue of chickens has come up and the question raised, where did you come up with the number 10 as a limit? And there was no answer. 3 meetings, no answer. The 10 chicken limitation appears to have been implemented arbitrarily with no research and no input from the Agriculture Commission or the public. If you want to pre-order chickens from runnings, there's a minimum order of 15 for chickens or ducks and 20 for guinea fowl. You can mix and match, which the planning and zoning sets 10 as the maximum for a mixture, but at runnings, there is a minimum of 6 birds of each species in an order. The reasons for this are humane reasons. In the past, it was common to purchase a single chicken or duck as an Easter gift for a child. This is considered inhumane because chickens and ducks are flocking animals and require others of, I can wait.
That's the timer, Mr.
I'm
Clark.
sorry.
Please continue. I'd like to hear what you're saying.
If a person has this is considered inhumane because chickens and ducks are flocking animals and require others of their species. If a person has a flock of 10 chickens and loses 4 to either disease or predation, it would be impossible for them to restore the flock of 10. What it appears to be on the surface, I'm not saying this is what it is, but it appears that the number 10 was suggested without research because 1 or 2 people do not like their neighbors having chickens. I don't know if this is true or not, but it sure looks like that. Other recent infringements on the rights of property owners include ridiculous setbacks, requirements for a permit for any structure, even a small coop, smaller than that table to house 10 chickens, would require a permit. Placement of sheds for aesthetic, not functional purpose. Prevention of dressing and butchering deer and other animals. The Planning and Zoning Commission has taken on the role of homeowners association without the input of the homeowners. Where will this go? What is the direction? Will the town ban basketball hoops on garages, TV antennas on rooftops, outdoor clotheslines, pickup trucks parked outdoors? All of these were implemented in the town of Westboro, Massachusetts, to disastrous results. Some of the implementations, such as shed placement or agricultural buildings holding equipment, would violate what members seated on this commission already have in place on their property. In other words, they would not be able to build what they currently have if they wanted to build it today. Is this self-serving? Now that I have this, I don't want anyone else to have it. It is clear the Planning and Zoning Commission has disdain for the voters and the citizens of the town of Thompson. A member of this board threatened violence on a member of the public. Is this the direction we should expect this commission to go? Last fall, with only 4 weeks before the election, 4 write-in candidates challenged the election and 2 of them got seats on the board. The other two would likely have won seats if there weren't for issues with the voting machines reading the write-in ballots and no one at the polling places understanding how to handle that. This should have sent a clear message. Change what you are doing. If nothing else, the communication. But you're not hearing it. In the placement of new members to fill vacancies after the election, the will of the voters was ignored. What happened was perfectly legal. But was it right? The appearance is that you take your lead from an unelected town employee of questionable credentials and just go along. It's the appearance. I'm not saying it's what it is. You do not take the lead from the very people who voted you into office. Much like the congressional bridges to nowhere, we have sidewalks on cul-de-sacs. Again, I turn to the Declaration of Independence. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Personally, I feel that the town will make a mistake if it dissolves this commission. But I also understand their frustration. If business as usual continues, and we watch this town as we grow for generations change into something none of us will recognize. I thank you for your time. I thank you for the extra time.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Very good.
Excellent.
Randy Austin, 1075 Thompson Road. I would just like to state one thing, that all this about being talked and who could speak at what time. I've been here in this town since I was 5 years old. And when that lawyer on the screen said, was there any questions? He did not say only board members. And not having any problems in this town or needing anything up until the gun issue and the land issue, we hadn't attended any meetings. When we got ripped to shreds because we didn't know the rules, no one told it to us when we walked in the door, and then we were belittled. It was embarrassing. And everyone assumes everybody knows these rules that you guys are governed by, but we didn't. But, you know, in the future, if you wanted the happier town, if you stated what you have to be regulated by and what the rights are and when to speak, it would have been beneficial. And a lot of this stuff might not have blown up and it got to the point where it is, if you know what I mean. You know, because I left here appalled. I've been here paying taxes in this town for years, and I felt like walking out of here with my tail between my legs. He did not say, the lawyer, that only you could ask a question. It wasn't stated that way. It just said, was there any questions? My wife went to ask one and we got ripped. And that's my opinion of what happened. And if someone was that, it's wrong because it was just wrong. And the other thing is, in planning and zoning, if you could actually eliminate all granite curbs in town, a lot of people's tires and wheels would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin.
I just want to add to my husband. That might be beneficial for everybody. We came to this meeting, we've gone to the selectmen meeting. We felt more welcome at the selectmen meeting, that we were being listened to. And it makes you feel better, not just your own agenda. So, you know, maybe you can't say something this and that, but they did at the select, but maybe if we feel you're more listening to us and understanding what we're trying to say to you, the best thing for committees is working together. I've been on lots of committees. You work together, you get everybody's advice. It goes a lot smoother so people understand really what everybody is thinking. And that's all we want. We all want the best for the town. I've been here 39 years. My husband's been here 57. We just want, I know most of the people in town, through school, through kids, through sports, through life, through church. We just all want to get together and do the right thing, just like you guys are trying to do. And we just want to be heard and feel appreciated for our comments. That's all, and not feel like, oh my God, what the hell? What's going on? What did we do wrong? That's all. We should all get together. Really, especially now, since COVID, it's very bad. We should all come together, and that's all we're asking. Please, let's all come together. Think of everybody together, everybody's ideas. It would be so much happier. I wish we could go back to the old days. Trust me. I don't like what's happening now. We really need to be better people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Austin.
After listening to all the, George O'Neill, I think you know who I am, listening to all the comments this evening, there's one theme that tends to run through it. And I want to share this with you because I've encountered it over the years, and I don't think you're aware of it, not just this commission, but others. And what it comes down to is legal counsel. I have dozens of attorneys that work for us, for our firm, and in our business. And I have staff that come to me with, the attorney said, I'll tell you what, it sounds an awful like mommy said, daddy said. I can't make a decision on my own. I've got to ask mommy. Now, that sounds a bit belittling, but the reality is you are elected officials. Own the issue. Make the decision. Stand up for the issue. If you want to say, this is the way we're going to do it, and this is why we're going to do it, then understand that. If you need counsel to explain it to you, do it somewhere else. Don't have the counsel sitting up over your shoulder, like I think of Bill Gates over Steve Jobs, the classic case, where they're lecturing us, and they're like your pit bull saying, sick 'em, as was echoed in this room tonight. Don't do it. You look bad. It diminishes your authority. It shows that you don't believe in what you're saying, because, well, I don't know, I have to ask the attorney. Oh, the attorney's going to tell me, oh, it's a problem I don't understand. Let me get the attorney to do it. All right, I'm going to get my big brother to come and beat you up or something. That's the concern here. It diminishes your authority. It diminishes the presence. You're the most important commission in this town. Nearly $750 million of tax base runs through this place. You make your own rules, you pass them, and you have your own enforcement officer. Don't beat us over the head with some attorney. I don't want to ever hear about it again. Talk to him outside. And next time you bring him up, I'm going to have a piece of that attorney verbally in a commission. I'm telling you, you look very bad. It diminishes your authority. You should all know this. You're more than 15 years old for the most part. Thank you.
Just wanted to, I appreciate everything everybody had to say, my sentiments exactly. One of the biggest things that concerned me tonight is our selectman never explained why she wanted to change that wording, and no one asked her, none of you. There was no purpose for it, other than she said, it costs the taxpayers money. Open space costs the taxpayers money. I would urge you all to do what I've done and go look back at the videos of the agriculture, the ag meetings, even your meetings. Have conversations with people who do have land in open space and see how they feel about this. But really, just look at those meetings and look at the statistics that were brought forward by, I think, some of the people in this room that basically say that open space doesn't cost the town money. Houses, development costs the town money. So when you think of open space, yes, I have a vested interest in it. I have a huge parcel of land I'm trying to preserve. I wouldn't qualify under those words that were put in there, completely unapproved and undeveloped, because our definition of development is any man-made structure. So what I wanted our selectmen to own up to tonight was that the definitions that she's using would exclude just about everyone. And I've heard it said before that, oh, we wouldn't hold you to that. We wouldn't hold ourselves to that. Well, that is bullshit. You need to clarify it and really say what you mean. And honestly, what I see in all these meetings I've been sitting in for months is that there are people that just want to fight to fight. And I don't think you can say that about any one of us. We are not elected officials. We are not volunteers. We are fighting for our town and what we believe in. You guys are in some of the same position too. I don't think you realized when you approved some of these regulations that what the underlying meanings were, because it's confusing, really is, unless you put the old regs next to the new regs. Really compare and then look up the definitions, what they mean, and just see how it's affecting people. I was corrected at one point. I think I said we had 50% of our acreage in open space. The assessor told me it's more like 47. So excuse me, I was wrong. Okay, we are constantly corrected on things we are saying that are incorrect. It's not on purpose. It's because nobody explains anything. I'm as confused as anyone else. Tara is the only person who's ever really explained anything to me. And even then, she works for the town, not for me. So just like the lawyer, she is, and he is, going to support whatever it is the town officials want. I'm disappointed in our selectmen, but in my opinion, she should resign. Simply because she doesn't have the best interest of this town at heart. To tell you that open space costs money, it doesn't cost money, and it will change the character of this town forever. Not just my little piece of land, but other pieces of land that when people die, they leave them to their kids and the kids can't afford to keep them. So it's a lot more detailed than just saying we're a bunch of troublemakers and we want what we want. I respect what you guys do, but I don't think that somebody who has lived in this town less than a decade should be on this commission. That is my belief, and I've felt that since the 9/27 meeting. And I'm gonna stick by that. That's what I'm fighting for. Is those of you that have been here for decades, serving us, you've done a really good job. And I think you do care about Thompson, but it's hard for others to care like you care. They haven't lived here that long.
Thank you, Ms. Romanek.
People, Valerie Clark, 105 Elm Road. Very briefly, also page 3, because it's a very important point that Ms. Romanek raised, is that open space does not cost the town. In fact, open space is saving the town. Page 3 is devoted to explaining that. And in Connecticut, the median cost to provide public services for each dollar of revenue raised is 34 cents on open space land. Residential in Connecticut, we're paying an extra 11 cents for every dollar that we raise. So putting in programs which encourage people to keep their property without a residence on it, without that building where there's a dwelling that requires educational services, public utilities, emergency services. List goes on, snow plowing. Those residents are costing the town money, and incentivizing people who have the open space land is saving the town significant dollars, not costing it.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
You've got a commenter in the audience, Sean.
All right, thank you. Go to Ms. White and then to the Mr. Brissett.
Yeah, Sean Brissett, 342 Lowell Davis Road. Well, for anybody that cares, the Celtics won tonight. Just figured I'd throw that out there. So it is now 10:13. That's 3 hours and almost 15 minutes of conversation. I think some people get carried away with minutes of meetings. Minutes of meetings are a very condensed version of a meeting, and people could debate all day long. This should be in, that should be in. These are audio taped. Nowadays, they're also videotaped. The fact that, 15 minutes of your 3 hours and 15 minutes were taking up debating one thing in the minutes, well, that's on the audio recording. Is always going to be difference of opinions of what should be in the minutes, but it's a 3 hour and 15-minute meeting. You literally cannot have every discussion, every comment in the meeting put into the minutes. They've always just been a quick synopsis. So that was one of my observations tonight. Another one, and I think it was Mrs. Clark that mentioned it. It's what I was thinking. And if Dave, you had looked at your phone, I texted you. Removing the word completely may have been the compromise that moves this forward. As I'm listening to all sides of this open space discussion, first of all, it appears as the word completely is a sticking point. But I'm listening to people talk about definitions. The definitions aren't in the document you guys were discussing tonight. Definitions are going to be in the ordinance. And so, you know, this idea that your committee votes on something and then it should just go through, and if they don't like it, we don't like it, we don't, you know, okay, compromise. I'm not positive, but I thought I heard the first selectman say, take the word completely out. I thought I heard Mrs. Clark say she heard that as well. You know, that may have been a good compromise that would have ended this tonight. Because if on Wednesday night, this board's dissolved, guess what's not going to get done in time for applications to be ready for anybody new that wants open space? So had you sent it back with the word completely removed, they may have approved it. This board, this commission, if it gets dissolved, doesn't have any input at that point because it's already back in the hands of the first selectman. But a refusal to have any type of compromise put us in this situation, which is this board's dissolved. Anybody that wants to apply for open space is stuck. And so as far as the whole idea of the board being dissolved, it may come as a shock to some people that I probably agree with 70%. I'm just going to throw that out there as a number. With about 70% of what the group that petitioned for this believes in. But I agree with 0% of the tactic. I believe you always try to work with the boards. I believe every 2 years you have the opportunity to vote people out or in. Does it always work perfectly? No, but I believe that's our process and we should respect that. But there are things that have been done by this commission that have put you in this position. So whatever happens on Wednesday, both sides take some responsibility in it. I do believe that the commission has overstepped at times, but I also believe that throwing the baby out with the bathwater is the wrong way to go about it. And so hopefully this is shot down on Wednesday night and the people on this commission realize the mistakes that you've made in overstepping into property rights. That's it. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Percent.
I'm also the same person I was earlier, and I think Gloria knows me, Sally White. One of the things that hasn't been mentioned is unless I missed it, is the potential for revenue increase if the definition of open space is altered so that it is more restricted. And I'm wondering if part of the motivation, because the motivation behind the change, as opposed to just codifying what was done in 79, we've all used comfortably with no complaints for 40+ years, is it to gain more revenue? I have both open space and forestry. I would be quite disturbed to think that the town had sought in a, how shall I say, surreptitious way to gain more revenue without my knowledge being, without it being publicly discussed. And I'm also wondering what the impact might be. I have fairly significant frontage on a tar road where the open space is, and I'm wondering what impact that would have also. But I think that these things need to be opened up as to what is the motivation, what is the end game, and would, if it were altered and restricted, would it result in more revenue for the town? That has to come out in the public. I think you all have missed an opportunity tonight to be prudent in not considering a moratorium for however long the potential of a reset of the commission may be. I think that would have been a very prudent thing to have done. I also didn't hear you discuss the potential of resignations. I also think that if things were handled in a courteous and practical way, that if it is dissolved, that it can be reformed in enough time
to satisfy the requirements to get the open space applications taken care of. It would mean people would have to hustle, but it could be done. And I too, with Mr. O'Neill speaking about the attorney, I have found that it is a really grievous abuse of attorney, both in the money that it's costing and the lack of stepping up and making decisions. One of my positions, I worked for a large corporation. The gentleman I worked closely with, who was Senior Vice President for Profit Center, we of course had counsel, but I learned a lesson early on. He was considered staff. He was there for some level of risk management advice, but all of the senior managers knew it was their decision, their responsibility. They would listen to some extent, but he was termed staff. They were the decision makers. It was their responsibility. And the last thing in terms of this proposed development, for some of you who may not be aware on the commission, I hope that there is in-depth research done on that piece of property. My recollection is that that was part of that at least. I don't know to what extent that acreage is or where it's sat, but a significant part of it was the essentially a toxic waste dump, the Cluett Peabody Mill. And unless somebody really looks back, that could be kind of smoothed over. And it would be a crying shame to put in a development there, dig it up, and then find that we have children, adults being compromised with their health down the road. But for some of you, beware. A good portion of that is horribly polluted by the Cluett Peabody Mill. So somebody's got to look into that and be honest about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. White. Any other comments? Thank you. Item 15, review of ZBA applications. There was no April 11th meeting. Item 16, commissioners' comments.
Yeah, I have
Ms.
about
Halsey?
50 pages I want to read. Kidding, I don't know any. I just want to see your faces.
Thank you, Ms. Halsey.
It's a good thing you're between us.
Any other commissioners' comments? Okay, item 17, our next meeting is here on May 23rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. Item 18,
I make a motion to adjourn.
is there a second? Mr. Poplawski seconds the motion made by Ms. Halsey. The meeting is adjourned at 10:22 p.m. Thank you.